Hello everyone, and welcome to game number 1 in our best of who knows how many series for our FFA finals that we've got going on. We're going to have PB Head Blues, Soren Johnson, and Cubit32 as our competitors today. I do believe it is once again going to be the first to 2 victories, as first to 3 would take literally all day if things went a little bit crazy. But for now, this is going to be the first one. People just looking to pick up an early lead for themselves. And speaking of an early lead, PB Head has founded with an absolutely massive amount of debt. He's already sitting in a double B rating for that. And what has he gotten for his troubles? It looks like he's got a decent scavenger location, maybe not the best. He does have carbon and aluminum both adjacent to his base. And there are definitely good things to say for that, but we're going to have to see if that was actually worth the ridiculous amount of debt he picked up. Soren went next. He's thrown down in the obvious scientific location. A lot of iron, a lot of water. Easy to utilize that as a scientist, but he will have to be careful for his aluminum requirements long term. Blues and Cubit were the last 2 down, I believe Blues being the very final player. So Cubit has taken another scavenger location. He has just grabbed up a ridiculous amount of carbon. That's all he cared about, was taking all kinds of carbon. And it's going to be interesting seeing him use that moving forward. 3 carbon tiles is a lot this early in the game. He will have an extra for having founded later, so maybe it'll work out all right for him, but he's going to have to be careful what he does on HQ level 2 to make sure he can continue moving through the game successfully. Blues, on the other hand, he was our last found. He just took a very standard, solo expansive, 2 iron, 1 aluminum opening. He's going to move into his steel. He might take some power. He might take some water. We'll just have to see where things go from here. Slowdown Strike is going to be our first auction of the game. This one is very important. There are adrenaline boosts available. Everybody kind of would like to make sure. They don't necessarily care who they're going to hit with this immediately, but they really aren't going to want to be hit by it. On the other hand, PB Head going to take that for $12,000. I do not think that was an appropriate decision on PB Head's part. He is looking to be falling out of this game very, very quickly at this point. 70,000 debt almost, and we have not even hit midnight on the first day yet. That is not a position you want to be in, because when that interest rate starts rolling in, PB Head's going to be in a lot of trouble unless he can find a way to pay back some of that debt very quickly. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at Black Market this game, and then we'll move forward seeing what these players have been doing with their expansions. So we do have Pirates, Magnetic Storms, Power Surges, Adrenaline Boosts, Slowdown Strikes, Network Viruses, Dynamite Mutinies, and Goon Squads, all available this game. Slowdown Strike's not available. Obviously, PB Head just kind of has one of those locked up for himself from that auction. So this is a pretty stacked Black Market, honestly. Adrenaline Boosts and Power Surges, both fantastic. Now, Soren in particular is going to have to watch out for these Pirates and Magnetic Storms as he's shipping resources over to his little corner of the map if he decides to take anything away from this very small little section he has set up for himself. It'll be interesting to see what he can do with that long term. Whereas Adrenaline Boost, Network Virus, and Power Surge are all obviously powerful, and then Dynamite and Mutiny can fight back against somebody who might get an early Offworld up as long as they don't get too much of a lead from their adrenaline boosts. We'll just have to see how all that goes down. PB Head is the first person hit by Black Market this game. No big surprise there. People are going to want to keep him locked down so he keeps his debt piling up and he falls out of this game ever more rapidly. You can see he's already, from our first interest tick, pushed down into that C level of debt, having to pay 14% interest on that. Not a position you want to be in. But he has managed to expand into some glass. He's gotten some aluminum down. He's moving into a patent office already on HQ level 3. Very dangerous move, I think, out of him. But he does have the silicon locked up. He does have some water pouring in. Nice high water tile right there. So we'll just have to see how all that goes. Now, PB was the first HQ3, but everybody else has made it there by now as well. Blue's moving into some farms, getting some power for himself. No big surprise. He is the one operating on steel mills and metal mines. He's going to need plenty of power to help compensate for that. Whereas Cubit, he actually on HQ level 2 just moved straight into glass. Maybe a bit of a gamble from him, but it looks as though it worked out reasonably well. He's getting in plenty of silicon. He did make it to HQ2. He's got the water secured, And he's all set up to kind of just start moving toward HQ level 4, the very, very standard Qubit play of the only thing I care about is upgrades. Literally the only thing Qubit ever does in any of these games is upgrade. PB Head has actually gone ahead and moved out of glass, as is Qubit. Wow, both of them just immediately being like, all right, it's nighttime, day is on the way, I want some power online. PB Head, definitely a reasonable decision out of him, considering his debt is already pushing toward D very, very quickly. Will almost certainly hit there with interest ticks, unless this power production does a very, very good job for him. With Superconductor, he may be able to pull it off. But I would say Blues is actually set up in a pretty nice position to move forward. He's got that food flowing in. PB Head and Qubit have done a very nice job making glass cheap for him. So Blues can continue through upgrades very, very easily, potentially, as we move forward this game. And Soren should be in a very similar position. He's got decent power set up, so he's actually paying down some debt right now. He's got money coming in from his electrolysis reactors, a little bit less, due to the fact that he'd like to be having more power. But as you can see, very quickly, HQ level 4, plenty of glass bought up as well. He can easily move into farms if he likes, which I think I would if I were him. He can easily keep pushing forward to the patent office or a variety of other things. It's just, I think Soren and Blues have actually been set up in fantastic positions just by PB Head and Qubit getting in each other's way consistently. PB Head does have some of his power torn away, and unfortunately for him, there was a power surplus. That is not something PB Head was going to be looking for. But nonetheless, he managed to pay down his debt so that he only accrued, I believe, a 10% interest rate when debt ticked over. 10 or 12 is what he was probably looking at there. And he's not knocked out of the game just yet. So even though this power surplus was certainly not what he was looking for, he should be able to survive because of it. Or despite it, I should say. Qubit has moved back into glass production himself. Not surprised by that at all. Qubit committed very, very heavily to silicon. And so getting out of glass was a little bit awkward for him, as that allowed the silicon price to plummet just a bit. His glass is now strong, but anyone else could just move into glass as well and take up some of those profits for themselves. So he's going to have to hope that nobody does that in the short term so he can push on through very easily and continue buying whatever black market effects he deems necessary. Alright, I missed whoever got the mule. Alright, it was Blues. Blues is the one who picks up that mule. Don't know if he needed it for anything or if he just felt in a very comfortable position right now. I would if I were him. And felt, alright, well, I can afford to spend a fair amount of debt just to secure this in case I need it later, because things can always get a little bit awkward. Alright, Soren has moved into, as expected, some farms and a patent office. It'll be interesting to see what he can do with that, considering PB Head has been working quite hard to utilize his, picking up financial instruments, nanotech, and superconductor already. But, however, he is using the patent lab at this point. What's he going for now? He wants virtual reality, says PB Head. Whereas Soren has decided he's after carbon scrubbing. I expect PB Head to mostly stick to this upper section. He doesn't have the cash to dip down into these lower expensive areas, but Soren, he should have that money. He's frozen right now due to a power surge, but he's scientific. He really doesn't care all that much. I expect him to stick to this bottom half for the most part. It looks like he's already queued up virtual reality. That will be a bit of a disappointment for him, I believe, when PB Head picks it up. But afterward, I would expect to see him more in this general area, something like thinking machines in particular. Might be a strong decision out of Soren. Blues is HQ level 5, and so with that, we're going to take a look at what Offworld market prices are this game. So far, nothing worth writing home about, really. You've got 370 on oxygen. Nothing else even like remotely good up in the life support section. Let's check elsewhere. 357 on steel is worth paying attention to. Certainly. And then glass down at 192, electronics at 269. This is just not a particularly strong off-world game, which is certainly not something Blues is going to want to see, considering he did found expansive, and he's been given a leg up by PB Head and Qubit this game. Speaking of PB Head and Qubit, Blues is actually sitting on enough money to just flat out kill one of them. And I don't think there's a whole lot they could do about it. They would need defense from other players to survive. I don't know if Blues has identified this fact or if he even cares. He may just be pushing forward into the off-world market. It is weak, this game. relatively speaking, but it does have adrenaline boost to back it up. It might not be a terrible decision. And on top of that, Blue's just sitting on this money forces PB Head to kind of defend himself already, spending money where he doesn't want to. Cubit, on the other hand, is making the standard Cubit play of, well, I'm just going to keep going regardless and hope that nobody kills me. It's going to be interesting to see if somebody ever punishes him for that. Alright, Blue's choosing to just defend himself rather than attack anybody just yet. It could work out okay. He's still set up in a strong position. I mean, he was the first to HQ level 5 as expansive. Soren is going to grab up Water Engine. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, considering he's scientific with a patent office down. If he wants anything like that, why not just take teleportation? But hey, it's Soren. He can do what he wants. Alright, guys. Speaking of, by the way, water has gotten very expensive, almost $80 a piece, and so now is when we're going to see who has set up the best for this situation. Cubit most certainly has not, and he is very quickly going to start losing money if he continues with this production. The way that water is looking these days, nobody's really collecting a huge amount of it, and on top of that, Soren has now started burning it instead of fuel for his freighters, so that's just an unfortunate situation for Cubit all around. Blues, on the other hand, he's set up a bit better for it. He's transitioned out of his food, I believe is what this was, into chems. He's now collecting quite a bit of water, and PB Head should be in a similar position. He is collecting some water. Not sure why PB Head's power keeps getting knocked out by power surges over here, but once again, people can do what they want. PB Head has also managed to accrue quite a number of black market items here. I imagine some of those he's been sitting on because they kept getting thrown at him, but others he's likely purchased for himself and just had sitting around. Things like that adrenaline boost. And he does use a couple of mutinies, trying to take some power away, trying to pay down his debt the best that he can. Unfortunately, he does get mutinied right back on one of them. And Scavenger's solar panels in particular, not necessarily something you particularly want to attack. Alright, more stock purchases going on. Nobody getting aggressive. Everybody very, very passive once again. PB Head, it actually looks like is committed to just buying up his own stock before even moving to HQ level 5. Once again, I don't really know why people have been bothering knocking out his power if they're not going to go for a killing blow. It is a bit of an odd decision. Alright, glass shortage coming out from Blues. Doesn't appear that anybody else is in glass. It's unlikely they have a stockpile. But glass is not particularly expensive. On the other hand, I don't mind this move, all told. The hacker array does make some sense when the Offworld market is weak. He's also pushed into a couple of engineering labs, and he should be in a position where if he sees an opponent throw down an Offworld, he will be able to follow it up very, very quickly, and still have taken an advantage with his extra tiles, getting this hacker array down and getting these engineering labs online. Claim auction, we're going to have to see how that goes.
12,000, 14,000.
PB Head, please don't bid on this. That's all I'm going to throw out there. Alright, PB Head has managed to push to HQ level 5. Finally. After his tearing start, he just got shut down so hard, was forced to keep paying down debt and focusing on power production. Not a position you want to be in, but it is the price you pay for getting your choice in location that early in the game. Glass shortage coming on in. Did anybody buy into this? Yes, people have actually bought into this fairly heavily. Blue should know that and be able to make a strong sell here. We'll have to see what happens to this price and when he chooses to. Nope, he's just sticking in it. He doesn't even care. He's going for another one. That's what he wants right now. He's all in on that. So both of the others taking a fair amount of profit off of that immediately. Blues, however, is playing the long game. He wants to make sure that he gets a lot of cash out of his glass before he is forced to transition out of it. Alright. Dynamite onto the Pleasure Dome. That almost certainly came from PB Head. Just trying to make sure his own Pleasure Dome is continually making or paying off all the debt that it possibly can. Trying to stay in this game the best that he can. More mutinies all over the place. All on this water pump. Water is pretty expensive. Mutinying the water pump does make quite a bit of sense. Alright. Let's take a good look at the overall situation at this point, because I have a feeling Cubit has pulled back into this game a lot better than anybody should have ever allowed him to. As you can see, he's currently sitting on about $80,000. Blue's still with a very, very strong lead. In fact, Blue's having so much money. The game is calculating he could get a shift-click buyout, it looks like, if he only pushed to about 20% more. This glass shortage certainly doing plenty of work for him. It looks like he also managed to knock out a fair amount of his opponent's cash with that. As you can see, Cubit's down to about 57 now, so he almost certainly lost money there. Nice use of shortages by Blues. Just going to continue on forward with that and see what he can get done. Chemicals are getting dangerous. Everybody's got to watch out for that. Some people have them researched, so they're doing a reasonably good job for them. But Soren is the one who has pushed into the Offworld market with adrenaline boost, and he has decided that instead of going after anyone weak, he wants to pick a fight with the biggest player on the board. I don't know about that decision out of Soren. Blues has in fact bought back all of his own stock. He says no stock advantage for you. Unacceptable. And Soren did then turn his attention on over to Cubit, who was in a D rating at that point. And Soren managed to get 2 of those stocks purchased. Not a whole lot of an advantage for Soren, though, off of his early Offworld market so far. Still sitting on a very, very small amount of cash. And as you can see, he's not launching for any profits that are really notable. I mean, it's still a decent building, and the boost obviously helps it out quite a bit, but these are very, very weak launches, relatively speaking, and so the Offworld rush is not going to get as much done as one might expect. A bit surprising to me that Blues never went for an Offworld himself. He's been making all kinds of glass. He had a lot of steel production down, and just completely decided against it. Despite its weakness, obviously expansive players do a decent job with Offworlds most of the time, considering the fact that they have half off on steel. 200 steel, significantly less than 400 when it comes to these things. But with these prices staying very, very high, the gamble has paid off for Blues. It's going reasonably well for him. Unfortunately, his water keeps getting frozen, and that's not a good thing when you're relying so heavily on those water resources anyway to try and make your profit. Alright, what's everybody else up to this game? Let's take a look. Cubit actually sitting on 3 engineering labs. Talk about greedy. He just wants all the tech in the world right now. Not as concerned about immediately making any noteworthy sum of money. He's already got his water production boosted. He's working on power at the moment, an interesting decision, but hopefully it will help him pay down his debt and allow him to stay in this game a bit more effectively. But I think playing the long game right now with these engineering labs might be a bit of a mistake, considering the angry beast that is Soren at this point is coming over to kill him. His launches only get better and better as he keeps producing fuel, ignoring the ridiculous water price everyone else has created.
Look at all the money.
And Soren, he might be able to bring down Cubit in just a moment here, already sitting on the 92%. One has to assume that is his immediate target. However, he might be a bit too worried about Blues in the background, but Blues has stalled out. He is not successfully making money at this point. The shortages aren't really going his way. Water might have been causing too much of a problem. And Soren does go ahead and get the buy to knock the potential frontrunner Cubit out of game number 1. He will not be winning this tournament match anytime soon. Alright, 239,000 debt for Soren was a problem. Not so much anymore, considering that HQ purchase definitely was a nice boost for him. And what has he chosen to done with all his extra claims? It looks like he's gotten some of Cubit's silicon back. Looks like he wants some of Cubit's carbon back. And this little guy, this is just an engineering lab getting constructed. And then a few more claims are just going to generally be used for some decent production nearby. Those are not all on top of carbon, which makes me wonder, did Soren pick up slant drilling? No, he did not. But he does have carbon scrubbing already, so it should be fine. No problem whatsoever ignoring the carbon when you've already got carbon scrubbing. It's almost why I always like slant drilling better on a scientist, because sometimes you can just get that carbon anyway. Alright, looks like Soren finally got a bit lackadaisical. with his goon squads, he is going to be forced to rebuild this off-world market constantly at this point if he does not re-goon it. I expect he won't. Goons are very, very expensive. So suddenly this off-world is not going to be making nearly the money that it was in that mid-period of the game that allowed him to get to that qubit purchase. And everybody else has a chance to keep catching up. But once again, Blues, he has stalled out completely. He is not making money right now. Absolutely just has not been successful in that. Some of these buildings should be to the point of making money shortly, but I feel like that he's been spending an awful lot on the black market to tear through Soren's goon squads, and so he hasn't been successfully actually accumulating any degree of wealth for himself in the process of that. Meanwhile, PB Head, he's just making the qubit play as well, going into a ridiculous number of engineering labs, but in favor of PB Head is the fact that he was not knocked out of the game already. So the engineering labs are actually getting something done. These chemical labs are very, very efficient, doing a great job of making money. He's also moving into his life support resources. I wonder if it was enough at all, or if it will be enough to overtake Blues. Blues engineering labs, not functional at the moment. I don't like that. If you're going to have a building down, make sure it's doing something. This is allowing PB Head the opportunity to potentially catch up in tech. An area that Soren, it would seem, has successfully managed to stay in. He's been getting that oxygen production running. Not the worst idea, although I think I would have preferred to see fuel, given the way everything has worked out. He's trying to keep that oxygen price low, in part because the oxygen price is the best off-world, but fuel isn't much worse. And it is much easier to make a large amount of fuel than oxygen. Even with his oxygen so well upgraded, he's making less of it than fuel at the moment because he's feeding some of that. And that's because he's feeding some fuel into chem labs. Oxygen just very, very difficult to actually benefit from the engineering lab sometimes, as you just make such a small amount of it at any given moment unless there's dry ice on the ground. Something to keep in mind for the future. Now, Blues is in a very nice position in that he doesn't have any debt, so his stock price is almost as high as Soren's, and if he can successfully make a large amount of cash this game, he could be in a position to bring it back. Now, Soren, he's not really worried about anybody just yet. Neither of his opponents have a large amount of cash. PB Head is sitting on an off-world market, but Blues has the money, so Soren suddenly has a decision to make here. Soren needs to decide if he's more concerned about the pile of cash that Blues is already sitting on, or if he needs to worry about the fact that PB Head has that off-world market online, and what potentially is that going to do to him. I love listening to Dynamite blowing up off-world markets. When it's not mine, I gotta be fair. It's kind of frustrating when it's yours. But it's just such a fun little noise, isn't it? Alright. Dust storms have been causing food to be a bit of a difficulty this game. Players shouldn't be too concerned about that. They can just upgrade their food. They'll be alright. It means that their food profits are going to be strong for an extended period of time now. You can see even with the dust storm rolling in, Blues is making almost 300 a second from that. I imagine he'd rather have that money now, but it will be strong production in the future for him as well. Soren transitioning back into food. Soren doesn't have nanotech this game, which is making things a bit more awkward for him, whereas PB Head does, but it's not getting as much work done for him as one might expect, that carbon price simply down at $7. PB Head has also moved out of his engineering labs, identifying the fact that he needs to be making money now, and so he is just going to rely on the tech that he had already set up in order to move forward this game. And that could work out very well for him, but it still looks like he's lagging behind both Blues and Soren in terms of cold hard cash at the moment. Only sitting on about 200,000. Soren's currently above 5, and Blues is still back at 300, so that early buyout, or the earlier buyout this game, has been working out reasonably well for Soren. He's going for an electronics shortage. I don't see anybody else in that production, so that could work out very, very well. It's not great money from electronics, but as long as nobody else is making it, it could still definitely be the right decision. Alright, food. What are we going to do here? food's already up above 300 with a shortcoming. Freeze onto Soren's food production is almost certainly a strong decision. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. Soren already sitting on $600,000. He just has the very awkward decision of who do I kill, if anyone. Does Soren need to just sit and wait and pay down his debt, potentially, if things get a little bit awkward, rather than going for a purchase? Try and force people into a position where they need to purchase each other in order to feel comfortable staying alive, and then Soren can simply take the game from there. On the other hand, with all this debt to pay down, Soren could potentially make a purchase and then drive his stock price sky high, and that would allow him access to the black market again without needing to actually pay down debt. We'll just have to see which direction Soren chooses to go. But he is at the 100% and the red button on PB head. He has not decided to pull the trigger. He's selected to not go for that. He's just not interested right now. Which means that he may be looking more at blues at this stage of the game. Keep in mind that PB Head did have that off-world market down. It looks like he has in fact scrapped it. Trying to gain those resources back with nanotech just in the moment, it looks like. He is not going to be trying to make any more money from that off-world market this game. Very interesting decision by PB Head. Just scrapping his own off-world. Alright. Mutinies and dynamites galore on the one remaining off-world is no big surprise. This is another reason that Soren could have potentially selected to knock out PB Head. It gets rid of 2/3 of the black market that could potentially be directed against him, but Soren says no. He wants to bring down blues. He is more worried about blues than PB Head. I have to say, I kind of agree with that decision, all told. PB Head made several moves. I don't know if it's actually going to end up winning him the game. But in that moment, it makes sense because PB Head had made several short-term moves. Getting rid of his off-world market, getting rid of his engineering labs. All of those indicated that PB Head was just going to be making the same amount of money the rest of the game, basically. Or less and less money throughout the entire game, one should say. Because he is no longer pushed into an investment that will allow him to continue to build on himself and make more and more money. He doesn't have an engineering lab to just keep making more stuff. He doesn't have a hacker array at the moment. He's working on it in order to turn his money into more money. He doesn't have an off-world to avoid on-world prices and make ridiculous amounts of money for his resources. So in some ways, it makes sense for Soren to be more concerned about blues, who is still in those engineering labs, could have more easily transitioned into an off-world, was already trying to use the hacker array, had the greater amount of territory. All of these things together potentially made blues more of a threat than PB Head. But I don't know if it's gonna have been enough. Soren needs to push to $715,000, dropping by the second as PB Head is gaining maybe a little bit of debt per second from life support. Oh yeah, PB Head's actually gaining a tremendous amount of debt per second from fuel in particular, costing him a very large amount of money. So Soren, I do believe, is going to manage to clean this up. As you can see, PB Head at the moment only needs $900,000, but Soren has a very large amount of debt that he can potentially pay off in order to put himself in a good position. Why are you people making... Oh man, I get why they're making chemicals. It's because they're so well upgraded, but look at this fuel price. I want to see these transition into fuel very, very quickly. Steel's not that expensive. It's almost certainly the correct decision, and I would love to see it in a moment. I don't really like these farms, but I guess they work okay. They are adjacent, so it could work out all right. And plus, water's not particularly expensive in the moment. Regardless, my initial point was, Soren has a large amount of debt he can very safely pay down. He is making significantly more money than PB Head. PB Head, taking advantage of his colony advantage, would cost him a large amount of money for the most part. Most of the effective offensive black market items have been pushed to very, very, very high prices. All except for, of course, the magnetic storm, which Soren is going to be using just to make sure PB Head doesn't have water and can't make money. I think a very strong decision out of Soren. He is looking at that 90%. He may need to pay down debt in just a moment here. Certainly something I would encourage Soren to do. He should not be scared of the long game at all. He needs to pay down his debt. There he goes. Soren's paying down his debt. Strong decision on his part, in my opinion. Hopefully it was in time that he's going to be all right. Although he didn't pay down a ridiculous amount of it. He could have just paid it all and started making that money over and over and over again. But he didn't want to. He wants to try and push for this kill on PB Head before things get too out of control. Not necessarily a bad decision, but the interest payment, he needs to be sure that does not catch him by surprise. More magnetic storms coming out. Trying to make sure that PB Head does not have the water he needs. Soren has transitioned into more electrolysis once again. He has a ridiculous amount of debt to pay down. This is playing with fire here, and I don't see a particularly good reason for it. Yes, he only needs $40,000 more, but what if PB Head catches him surprise by a short? What if he loses focus for just one moment? Oh man, I still think Soren should end up taking this. It should not be a major problem for him. The magnetic storms are still a strong decision, forcing a very awkward position out of the water. Soren is at the red button, and he is going to take game number 1 here. And he is halfway to winning this FFA majority buyout, destroy buyout tournament. Very nice. It was a close one at the end there. PB Head almost hanging on enough. But really it wasn't that close, and here's why. Because Soren could have just paid down debt and then he would have had it anyway. Right, guys? It looked close. It really wasn't. There was just no need for Soren to be playing quite at that edge there. Yes. And PB Head, I feel like if he hadn't made the decisions to transition out of those engineering labs in that Offworld market, that was his only real potential to bring it back into this game. Why was Blues worth so much more than me, I wonder? Well, Blues had paid down debt. I think it was mostly debt. PB had always had debt and Blues didn't, from what I remember. There's also just the simple fact that a big thing you need to remember, guys, is scavengers will frequently have low stock prices. And the reason for that is, as I understand it, remember that assets are counted into your stock price. So all of your buildings, as I understand it, will influence your stock price, and I believe your buildings will adjust in value to the value of resources that are used to build them. Now, I might be 100% off my rocker there, but that's as I understand it. So frequently, scavengers will have low stock prices relative to everybody else because everybody else uses steel for their buildings. As you can see, buildings are listed, structures are listed on the stock market list, on the what influences your stock price. And so because scavengers use carbon, and carbon is very cheap most of the time, their buildings aren't worth much. And on top of that, they don't have as many of them as an expansive player would. And both of those things could lead to a very significant difference. Value of structures is fixed, you think. Nonetheless, expansive players end up with more structures. And that would certainly influence things. You think, okay. Even if value of structures are fixed, the player with more of them would have a higher stock price. Values buildings with starting price of resources. So the concept still stands that an expansive player's buildings are still very, very valuable. Yeah. And scavengers' buildings are not necessarily as valuable, as they are consisting only of carbon and aluminum, even with the steel reduction. Steel is so expensive that it ends up working out in steel's favor. Could explain why scientists always have the ridiculous stock price they do. Level 20 scientific headquarters. Well, yeah. Alright, guys. That's going to do it for game number 1 and our quick little discussion responding to PB's question here. We did have an explanation that they are based on these starting prices. Who had the other lab? PB had the other lab. Yes. PB had the other lab. I don't know about that, losing the game without carbon scrubbing for sure. Maybe it was kind of important, but it feels to me... I mean, Carbon Scrubbing got something done with this electronics, yes. Electronics were very, very strong, but food was pretty important too. I think electronics were only so strong because you were the only one ever in them. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and hop out of there and just get on over to game number 2. I don't know if I would call Offworld's mostly useless, that game, although I didn't take the time to look at exactly how much Soren made off of it. I think that rush to the adrenaline-boosted Offworld is still what allowed Soren his quick purchase on Qubit. And that was crucial to Soren eventually pushing through the other two. Alright guys, real quick before we get started, I want to explain why the Offworld was a big deal. Because nobody agrees that the Offworld was a big deal, and I disagree wholeheartedly, and I got asked to do this, so I'm going to take my moment here and be like, look, that Offworld was important because it was such a huge threat. The adrenaline boosts made a big difference. It allowed Soren the opportunity to use the black market effectively to increase his own stockpile of resources, and that was a very big deal. It gave Soren something to do with the black market that would allow him to very effectively make a large amount of money. That pushes to a fast buy on Qubit. He's spending money on goon squads this whole time, giving him the tools to keep down other players, potentially. On top of that, other players have to spend a large amount of money knocking down that Offworld over and over and over and over again. And when you have that lead, you can generally afford to repair that Offworld or not more than they can afford to knock it down. Especially when you've only bothered to take one. Huge deal that PB Head and Blues in particular didn't have extra cash to commit into their hacker arrays, commit into engineering labs faster, get to an Offworld more effectively. A huge deal. You could see both of them were struggling to make money for a long time that game, and the Offworld had a lot to do with it. Alright. Hello everyone, and welcome to game number 2 in our best of 5 series, first 2 wins for our FFA tournament between Qubit 32, Blues, PB Head, and Soren Johnson. Soren Johnson taking game number 1 very effectively. not so easily. It was a bit of a near thing at the end. Soren letting his debt creep up quite a bit. Definitely, I like the term playing with fire for that. Sitting on about, his opponent has about a 95%. When you push the 100% is not particularly comfortable, but he got it done nonetheless. All right. Somebody has decided to point out the fact that there are a double high carbon tiles here ready to go. And Soren decides he wants to be the first one to bite on those. He is going to get both of them. And now he's pushing a bit aggressively for some aluminum. I doubt he's going to get that. Should have likely just taken the medium and run with it, but Blues is going to cut him off from the high that he was after. Soren with 2 high carbon tiles, though. That's all the carbon he's going to need for the time being, and there are no underground nukes available this game, so it's going to be hard to punish that very effectively, except with maybe some power surges. So we'll have to see how that goes. Everybody else has gotten founded. Blues selecting to go as expansive with a quick found. He's moved straight into iron and aluminum. Going to try and push into steel as best as he can so he can hurry on up to HQ level 2. Let's see. PB Head was the next to found after that. He just elected to go for robotic, take some iron himself, which could work out okay, although you can see he is struggling for the steel. Having found it after Blues, it's definitely causing him some problems. But he will have several geotherms right next to him. He is in dry ice as well, so even though things look a little bit weird for PB Head, water and silicon not too far away, it could still work out for him, but he's going to have to work hard and make sure he knows what he's doing with this kind of awkward territory he's set himself up for. Cubit, on the other hand, went last to found as expansive, and he went for his very typical last to found strategy of aluminum and geotherm. You see Cubit do this quite a bit, actually. I've seen him do it before. He's just going to be relying on that geotherm in order to actually make him money in the moment. He's already goon squatted it, as he knows how important it is that this stay protected and not be hit by a mutiny. A mutiny on that would absolutely ruin him for basically the entire game. So he chooses to just spend the cash that he needs to, getting that goon squad in place, making absolutely certain that that geotherm will continue to make him money, and this should allow him to actually push forward this game. It's going to be a struggle, but the geotherm will continually make more and more money, and he is set up in a position where he can potentially even get a hold of extra claims, or push to an upgrade and then get down solar panels to continue making money from power. So he should be able to pull into it with that play. Soren has pushed to HQ level 2. I believe he was the first one there. He took strong silicon, he took strong water. Exactly the kind of thing you expect from a scavenger hitting HQ level 2, and he just took 1 glass furnace. He should be able to use that to get to HQ level 3 without too much difficulty. As you can see, he's already pushed into the glass he requires. He's very close on the aluminum front, so he's making good progress there. PB Head has gotten to HQ level 2 as well. His geotherm, however, got cut off by Cubit. Cubit selecting to go for another geotherm and says, I want that one. PB Head getting punished for not taking it at HQ level 2. You have to expect that players of this caliber are not going to let you get away with having those extra adjacency bonuses and that potential superconductor if they can avoid it. So Cubit actually does choose to pick up an extra claim in order to commit to that geotherm. And when Cubit hits HQ level 2, he'll have 5 claims to utilize immediately. And he may be able to get something done with that. We'll just have to see how everything goes for him, as he sits here making more and more money per second on power. He does have the upgrade available if he wants it, but all those resources are a bit expensive, so maybe he'll elect to go for something else. More and more geotherms flying out from everywhere. Looks like both of the targets wanted this one in particular, but that means Soren, I believe, is the one going to be left in the dust, as Blues is much faster, he's much closer, so he is going to take this geothermal plant away from Soren. And Soren's going to have to find his power elsewhere this game. Already does have one down over here, so he should be alright long term. And of course, we get a superconductor auction. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Alright, so Cubit's put in an interesting position by this, as he would like it. He definitely would like it, but when he takes it, he's basically committing to actual cash for this. He basically has to pay cash for this auction, and it's likely worth it to him. but it's worth a lot to PB Head as well. And PB Head, he's not necessarily dependent on his power to actually make money for him. He has other options right now. Cubit doesn't. So PB Head much more willing to push very, very high on that auction. Also likely feeling a bit vindictive. Most of the players here can get a bit emotional at times when it comes to those things. And so, not too surprising to see PB Head go ahead and grab that up for 32,000. We also all know by now that he is very aggressive on auctions. And he will pay a lot of money for them most of the time. He's going to use that last little tile for a wind turbine. I like it. That's kind of cool. A solid almost 2 power per second from a wind turbine guaranteed is nothing bad. And maybe a dust storm will hit. You never know. Alright, meanwhile, everybody's pushed to HQ level 3 very effectively. Soren did commit his last tile just to a solar panel instead of a geotherm. Not what he wanted, but it will work out. Soren also very, very happy to see a glass shortage right now, as he's the only one in glass production. Blue's choosing instead to go after some reactors, PB Head moving into food, and Cubit, of course, is just not there yet. And so that's going to be very, very nice for Soren, and should allow him to even more effectively push through this game if he would like to. If he chooses, he could just hit HQ level 4 at any moment by selling down glass, and he will. Alright, glass immediately frozen after that. No big surprise. Soren's going to have to make sure that he is using the black market effectively from here on out. This should have been goon squatted. This should have been goon squatted. The power surge should not have taken him like that. But it was not. There's really no excuse for that. And Soren is going to have to pay the price. We'll see what he can do with the black market from here. Alright, Blues has also managed to push to HQ level 4. So once again, these two players leading the way in the FFA. Alright, PB Head not... Nope, that was Cubit. Cubit managing to push to HQ level 3. Still running behind. Power not making him a whole lot of money at this point. He is going to be dependent on this glass production in order to keep moving forward. And moving into reactors instead of steel. Definitely a bit of a risky move. But it should work out alright. We'll just have to see how it goes long term. Dust Storm definitely going to be hurting PB Head at the moment in terms of his food production, which I'm sure he would like. At least his wind turbine's making 115 per second. Certainly not a bad thing for PB Head. Blues has gotten into glass himself as well. You do expect to see a lot of people on glass by now, and this is why Soren should have goon squatted his glass furnaces. He made some money off of that shortage, but he could have made so much more if even one of these had survived that freeze.
The black market has gone live.
Not a strong play. Not a strong play out of Soren. But congratulations to whoever hit that power surge. Alright. Let's see. Was Cubit sitting on a large amount of food? Did I see that correctly? Somebody was sitting on a large amount of food. And it looks like has sold it down at this point. It is the kind of thing that Cubit would do, just trying to punish his opponents. Regardless, PB Head, the one actually was making food, chose to move out of it with the dust storm, but hasn't done anything with the tiles just yet, so I don't like that. Alright, here we go. Getting some dry ice down. It's going to be decent oxygen and carbon production, but also affected by the dust storm. I don't like that move. That feels like a weak decision to me out of PB Head. The dust storm is now faded, and these are making $88 a second. But what if they were just still farms? Wouldn't have spent all that extra time, all that extra glass. I think a questionable decision, certainly, right now. Cubit's going to be okay with this glass price rising. He can push to another upgrade, and he can very easily move into strong silicon production adjacent to his base. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do that now. And so this glass price getting a bit out of control is not a problem for him, trying to force other people to transition while he just stays where he is. Both Blues and Soren have managed to push to HQ level 5 at this point. Soren is choosing just to go for some basic strong production. He is getting mutinied a bit right now and returning the same, it looks like, so we'll just have to see how that goes down long term. Whereas Blues is also doing a very, very similar play. Just a lot of basic, strong production. Blues being the expansive player, I do give him a slight edge in that. Soren has moved into one engineering lab, which is currently sitting idle. Blues has moved into a patent office, and I don't know exactly what he'll be aiming for first. There are a vast array of strong options here for patents, as I don't believe too many of them have been taken by PB Head just yet. We're going to check on that and make sure. Superconductor, virtual reality, and carbon scrubbing are all gone already. Qubit also in a patent office. This is very aggressive out of these two players, and I don't know if I agree with this decision at all. They are setting themselves up for failure by going for a patent office this far behind. And we'll just have to see if Soren and Blues can punish them appropriately. Silicon auction, that's an interesting one. I don't know how to feel about that tile right now. I like it. I've decided I like it. It's an amusing tile, if nothing else. I don't know if it's actually worth the amount it's being paid for it right now. Qubit's already producing a very large amount of silicon. That price is going to be dropping pretty rapidly, and it has to be shipped a very long distance. On top of that, Soren himself is the one kind of maintaining that silicon price right now. With his glass production, maybe it'll be okay, but it's not necessarily the correct move, I think, right now. 20,000 for that is very, very expensive. And if he had just simply been playing with his glass furnaces a bit more effectively, i.e. scrapping them and making them the chem labs they are now, I think he would have been in a much better spot. Wouldn't have been forced to pay 20,000 for that. Hopefully it'll work out for him. But as you can see, Qubit actually sitting on a large amount of silicon right now, making that price appear higher than it actually is. So a good play out of Qubit to kind of punish that a little bit out of Soren. Alright, patent offices. Who's got what so far? Qubit sitting on nanotech and virtual reality, both reasonably strong. I do like the virtual reality decision from Qubit in this particular game. Because he was making money from power early, power has fallen off. His advantage is still that he has almost no debt. And so he takes that and he says, I am going to build a pleasure dome with virtual reality because it makes a ridiculous amount of money for me, and I've already set myself up in a position to make money from it, not pay down debt. So that's a very strong play out of Qubit. Definitely something people need to think about when they're going for those early power plays. There's a transition like that one. Literally everyone has a patent office down right now, and we have no scientists in this game. Soren wants perpetual motion. PB Head more interested in slant drilling. Blues, also after slant drilling, is going to be the one to get there before PB Head, but Qubit is going to beat Blues. So a lot of people about to be very disappointed in just a moment here, as Qubit goes ahead and takes slant drilling away from them. And now he has gone ahead and moved into teleportation. PB Head is on thinking machines, Blues is looking at nothing, and Soren is still after perpetual motion. Very awkward game. Very awkward game all around. Soren has gotten a bit aggressive on Blues, a bit aggressive on PB Head. He's going to need to make a decision before too long, as his debt has started piling up fairly significantly, sitting on just that one geotherm for most of this game. Most of this game has just been sitting on one geotherm, so his power debt and his fuel debt are getting absolutely ridiculously out of control. I would have loved to see him pick up teleportation. I think that was absolutely necessary for him this game. But instead, he elected not to, and I think he's paying the price with his current debt total. Qubit, on the other hand, has identified teleportation as... No, is Qubit? Yeah, Qubit. I need to click here in order to get the observation. He has identified teleportation as reasonably strong for him. He's not paying near so much fuel debt, but fuel itself has gotten out of control. So, still a strong decision, I think, out of Qubit. As you can see, Qubit and PB have both managed to get to HQ level 5 by now. They're not completely set up there yet, still have claims going out. Still getting everything constructed, but they are at HQ level 5, which makes me wonder what it is Soren and Blues have been doing this entire time that they haven't pushed to enough money to actually get anything done. Soren's only sitting on about 15,000. Blues also sitting on only about 25,000, but he has a goon squatted Offworld online. It is launching fuel, which is a massive mistake right now. Ignoring this water price. This water price is insane. We never went over Offworlds this game. I don't know if we even covered Black Market. Too much has been going on between these players. But this $387 Offworld price for water is insane. That is so high for water. As all of you out there should know, that's like a $350,000... I mean, $350 difference, right? $350 difference right there is what you're looking at. That is such a ridiculous amount of money. Such a ridiculous amount of money that could be getting made. Instead, it's launching fuel. Very depressing indeed. Let's take a look at the rest of these prices. We are looking at fuel as a strong-ish price at 47,000. Everything else a bit weak. Glass is at 34,000. So it's really water and fuel you're looking at this game, and water should definitely be the option getting launched at this moment. That could be a very big deal, as Blues and Soren have gotten themselves locked into a fight. It's pretty much going to be one or the other of them taking each other down. And so we're just going to have to see who comes out on top there. But losing out on all this money for Blues is definitely not something that's acceptable at this point. Not something he can be affording. Cubit, meanwhile, has pushed himself quite nicely back into the game, doing the very standard, I'm Cubit and I make very aggressive plays that I can't really afford, but as long as nobody punishes me for them, I'm going to win the game. So that's what I expect to see at this point, honestly, is Cubit ending up taking this game, but we'll just see how it goes from here. As you can see, he's managed to secure all of his own stock, he has no debt, he has great patents, and he's got engineering labs functional at this point. Should be running behind Soren's, but not by too much. He'll catch up quickly with the 2 labs. Let's see how everybody else's are doing. Blues is currently looking at only 6 techs, the rest not researching anything. Food shortage is running. Not going to get a great benefit out of that, but it is something he can short at least. And Blues has bought all of his own stock up. I definitely agree with that decision when you're in D levels of debt. PB Head, meanwhile, he's got a little bit of tech for himself, working on keeping up with everybody else on those 2 engineering labs. He should be just fine. Hard to call an advantage besides Cubit right now. I still think Cubit is absolutely in the strongest position in this game. Especially with Blues not using his Offworld market correctly, with the ridiculous amount of debt both Blues and Soren have managed to accumulate. They're having to pay that down all the time. PB Head still hasn't secured his own stock, despite the fact that he has very, very small amounts of debt. And he is just sitting on a very, very similar territory to Cubit, but Cubit has more of it. Cubit just plain has more. So he can use it a bit more effectively, is what we're going to expect here. And that's why I expect him to be able to pull on through here. But it is Destroy Buyout. And as we've seen before, anything can happen in Destroy Buyout. Alright, Blues, having purchased all his own stock, he is almost certainly going to be gunning for Soren at this point. 325 is about what he needs. Obviously, that number will change as stock prices fluctuate and debt goes up and down as we move through the game.
Your stock is being
Don't know exactly what PB means by that. Not going to try and interpret it until he clarifies, if he clarifies. Soren sitting on a small amount of money. Blues sitting on, well, significantly more. Blues also having paid down some of his debt. He's back into that C rating. Don't know how he pulled that off with power, unless he just paid it directly. But so it does look like Soren will be able to possibly get the buy onto... Or sorry, Blues will possibly be able to get the buy onto Soren, but I'm worried that Cubit is just going to grab it out from under him. Soren, having pushed to this off-world market, makes things interesting. He is using it for water. Did Blues ever identify water as a strong shipment? It does not look like it. He is just chain-sending fuel the entire time. Definitely going to be cutting into his chemical production, but thankfully it cuts into everybody else's as well. Is anybody making steel? Yes, okay, PB Head is making steel. Thank you. $131 for that. At one point I looked over. Steel was 150, iron was 1. And I'm sitting here going, guys, seriously? Seriously? What are you doing over there? Absolutely ridiculous. Alright, Cubit still on no debt. This Pleasure Dome just churning away 320 a second. I mean, if we look at these other tiles, we could say that a reactor is strong right now, right? $200 for fuel. That a farm is reasonably strong, 175 for a farm, and yet this farm is making 215 with research. This reactor is making almost 200 without any research. And this Pleasure Dome is at 320 a second. It's so good. It's so good. I just wanted to point that out for everybody. That has been sitting there making Cubit a ridiculous amount of cash. Actually, you know what's nice about the Pleasure Dome in particular? We can open this up. By the way, I would love to see this implemented for other things as well. We're just interrupting the game very quickly so I can come over here. We're going to go over to Bradbury. Entertainment, $153,000. And that has basically almost all been straight cash for Cubit from that one building so far this game. I have to question if the others have made that from their off-world markets. They probably have by now, but it's a lot harder to interpret the off-world market because of this ridiculous fuel price that's been getting in the way of blues, everybody else trying to send water. Doing all those calculations can be a bit awkward and difficult.
We're not surprised.
Cubit very close to being able to make a purchase if he wants to, and I think he has a very obvious row of dominoes potentially to knock down. You take out blues, that gets rid of your expansive opponent, excuse me for that, who has a lot of tech. You take down Soren afterward. You've gotten some of his stock, you bring him down, he was clearly kind of next in line afterward. And then that lets you very easily secure a lot of stock to bring down PB Head. The wrench in this is PB Head, it looks like, might be his single most successful opponent. PB Head managing to drag himself back into this one very effectively with his engineering labs making electronics, figuring out that steel is kind of good, managing to make that. Always a nice move for PB Head, and he has established an off-world market which is launching the correct resource of water. And so he's looking to be in a pretty good spot so far, and he might be the one that Cubit needs to bring down first. Blues has managed to pay off a lot of debt, also gets in the way of things. He's kind of keeping himself from winning this one, but he also just makes everything a bit more complicated. And Soren is actually electing to sell out of PB Head's stock, making himself less and less valuable for Cubit to buy. Easier to buy, but less valuable, so maybe Cubit will pass him on over. Definitely a reasonable decision, I think, out of Soren. If he needs that cash now, go ahead and take it. You're already in a position where someone could buy you just on a whim. Why not go ahead and do it? So this farm is not doing particularly well, and Cubit looks like he's losing some focus here. His off-world is mutinied, he's been hit by a virus, which is causing some problems, but not too bad, given that he likely wouldn't want to transition. Oh, yep, there you go. Definitely losing money from that virus at this point. It's not something pleasant for him, and he has a lot of territory he's not actually doing anything with. Stalling out a bit is Cubit, but still in a strong position with an absolutely ridiculous amount of money. So I wouldn't worry about him too much long-term. PB Head also losing money in his reactors. Okay, there we go. Somebody has decided to sell down their stockpile of water they were trying to punish Cubit with. Maybe it was PB Head that was actually holding on to that. Definitely an interesting decision all told. Alright. Iron getting shorted out. Cubit, yeah, as you can see, he's still making money, but he's not in nearly the strong position that he was minutes ago. He's got all this territory sitting around doing nothing for an extended period of time. He did manage to get a hold of his off-world once again and push into a second one. And Cubit, one thing he does much better than a large number of other players is keep his engineering labs functional. As you can see, he has at least some tech done. I don't like the array that he's selected. I don't like the fact that none of it is steel right now, but at least he has the tech. So that's good. I believe he was the last one to push into engineering labs. And so he, as you can see, he's caught up to Soren very nicely on his one. PB Head as well, looks like he's ahead of, although PB Head may have selected slightly better techs. It's hard to call. All of this electronics production, this is quite a lot of it. Very, very easy to kind of overload the market when it comes to electronics in a four-man game. And as you can see, Soren is also elected to make electronics this game. So not as strong a position for PB Head. Whereas Blues, sitting back here, he's managed to pay down his debt. He still has some of Soren's stock bought up, which is important. And he's just working on pushing forward at this point. Also has a fair amount of tech done. I like his spread a bit better. He has this glass done, for example. That's important. And he has this steel done. And as you can see, that's making a silly amount of money right now. And it was better just moments ago. Alright, somebody figured out who Cubit was. That should have been obvious, quite frankly, from the found. I've only ever seen Cubit make that opening and have it actually work. Yep, PB Head's made all the guesses correctly. Not sure what that means to him. Yeah, Blues knew it with the level 1 Geo. Blue's saying that he's fairly sure, or sorry, Cubit saying he's fairly sure he wants to buy PB Head. That does seem like the correct decision at this point after all's been said and done. PB Head currently sitting on about $500,000. Blues is next in line with less than 2, so PB Head is the immediate threat for Cubit to eliminate. He is very close to being able to do so, sitting on 100% right now, in fact, if he just sold down enough of his resources. Cubit not willing to make the control shift down buyout in order to make that happen. He could have also likely just canceled one of his fuel launches and gotten it done, but when it finishes, that should go ahead and be the end for PB Head. But still, are you going to actually make the purchase, Cubit? I mean, come on. There it is, finally. Cubit gets that buy done, but, this is not necessarily a great position for Cubit to be in. He's definitely in a strong place. But he certainly has to worry that one of his opponents could knock him down. He's still sitting on $140,000. Very successfully actually making money at this point, with his ridiculous amount of tech, and of course the very, very high price of silicon. Those are both working in his favor at the moment, as he's the one with real silicon production going on. As you can see, these silicon tiles with slant drilling are probably the best moneymakers on this map at the moment. Maybe even better than an off-world market. Now, Cubit has tied himself to fuel. Once again, all these players making this mistake. Tell me someone is sending water. Soren is sending some water. Thank you. Oh, man, guys. You got to pay attention to that water price. Sometimes it's just so good. Definitely a problem. So Soren the one taking the advantage with the off-world market, and I think you can see it in the fact that he has managed to successfully pull himself up to $300,000 from almost nothing. But he is launching both fuel and water. Things just looking a bit awkward. He doesn't want to pick between the two or have to pay too much attention, is basically what it comes down to. But I think more attention is certainly required here this game. Blues is the one who can threaten potentially to buy out Cubit. He is sitting on more cash. He's making a decent amount of money as well. He is overloaded, which is kind of cutting into his power, but he's not going to worry about that too much, I don't think. It's not pleasant, but it's not the end of the world either. By the way, overloads could have been used very effectively against Cubit when he put down steel early game and actually just killed him right then and there. Might have been a nice decision from these two players. Regardless, that time has obviously come and gone. Don't really like this overload, although I guess it kind of worked out, considering there was this goon squad positioned here. And of course, overloading an off-world market is absolutely ridiculous. Now, this is only affecting Blue's water, not his power. So the overloads, I don't know if everybody's identified that this costs him water because he has cold fusion this game. But it is definitely important detail that that is the pattern that Blues managed to get to. Now, all that said, Cubit is still managing to make an absolutely ridiculous amount of cash. Silicon definitely carrying him through. He managed to get down 2 additional off-worlds. All of them are launching at this point, well, the ones that aren't rebuilding. They're still launching fuel, but the fuel price has been coming down, so those get better and better by the second, and I don't think quite enough is being done to keep Cubit from getting to the buy that he wants, which is going to be on Blues, I would expect. That will set him up in a very strong position with a very high stock price, and I doubt that Soren will manage to push to the money he would require to make a purchase before Cubit managed to push to both of them. As you can see, Blues could purchase Soren at any moment, but he is wanting to push for PB Head, as far away as that might be. Blues is only about halfway there. This should be, sorry, Cubit's game to win. I say PB Head, his name is up there, guys. I'm sorry. It's the best I can say. I'm sorry. Blues also just lost an absolutely insane... No, did he actually make the money from that? Well, regardless, he bought Soren, which will allow us to end this game just a bit faster when Cubit pushes to the buy on him. Blues is looking at nothing. Cubit, it actually speeds up the game. It doesn't delay anything. It actually speeds it up. Don't be ridiculous here. Blues is just doing you a nice little favor and letting you buy both people at once so that you can go ahead and take this game. Guys, you have got to punish Cubit. Seriously, it's Cubit. Don't let him do that. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Alright. That is going to be game number 2. Going on over to Cubit in just a moment here. He has the money. He's got the button. And so Cubit and Soren are going to be the two with a lead, looking to clean it up in game number 3. PB Head and Blues still hoping to grab their very first win to keep and stay alive in this one. PB Head thought he had nanotech. Yeah. Guys, you have got to punish those plays. Absolutely, absolutely. If somebody is on a patent office at HQ level 3 when you are HQ level 5, kill them, please. Just throwing it out there. Alright. Well, I do want to look and see if I go over to buildings, Cubit, $350,000 cash off that patent office. All right. Not much more to talk about there. We discussed most of it during the game. Cubit making his standard gambles, not getting punished for them in the FFA. Everybody else just, yeah, the word is impotent in the late game, not making money successfully. Really no good reason for that, I think. Just very, very much so struggling to make money. Very awkward. Very awkward. I think debt, that early debt, because Soren and Blues got locked into this combat with each other, I think that early debt is what really took them down long term. If Soren had had the foresight to move into teleportation with his patent office, if Blues had just not built a patent office when he was so far behind in those techs in the patent office, if they had just attacked their opponents instead of trying to build on themselves, I think they would have set each other up for victory, or set themselves up for victory. But instead, they were kind of like lazily attacking each other while setting up for later in the game, and then being forced to pay down a large amount of debt, and it wasn't going to work. And then PB Head, of course, stuck behind on robotic, never a position to be in. There were really no advantages for him to exploit this game. I think it may have just been a weak found for PB Head, combined with having his geotherm taken away. So, very, very awkward. Alright, guys. We're going to get out of here and move on to game number 3. Alright, settings all look good. Everybody's here and readied up. Hello everyone, and welcome to game number 3 in our FFA tournament. Cubit taking game number 2, Soren game number 1. Very nice win from Cubit in game number 2. Everyone else was struggling to make money, but he had managed to make the investments into the right places so that he could push on forward and take the game on a very nice power play into kind of pleasure dome play that you don't see very often. PB Head once again deciding that he would like to spend an awful lot of money at the start of this game. He is going to take the combo tiles that we've got going on, along with a fair amount of iron. This should be a steel mill. No, that's an iron mine, a metal mine. Interesting. Regardless, he's going to grab it up, try and use that to push on to HQ level 2 almost instantaneously. Can't quite get it immediately this game, but he will have it in just a moment.
Full hardware upgrade complete.
And he is going to use that to try and propel himself very far forward this game in order to compensate for his 64,000 debt that he is elected to take on. Soren, on the other hand, he grabs up 57,000 debt to get it once again a strong scientific position. Silicon very close, water and iron adjacent are exactly the kind of things you look for. However, the aluminum is going to be a bit awkward for him, and his early found, that is not going to be doing a whole lot for him anytime soon. Thankfully, with the fact that PB Head doesn't need aluminum and is pulling in a ridiculous amount of it, aluminum's price is very low, and so Soren, he might have even been better off just skipping this tile entirely. But he will not be punished heavily for its distance away from his base. After that, we did have Bradbury found, third. That would have been Cubit. Well, people know it already, which is amusing. And PB Head making sure to point it out. And so we do have carbon for Cubit, some aluminum. He's moving into some water. And he should have one more tile somewhere. I'm not seeing it. I would expect it to be silicon. But I'm not seeing it anywhere. No, that's not even... Yeah, that is his water. Cubit, where's your last tile? I might have to wait for the line to get to see it. Oh no, he still has a claim sitting around. Never mind. I was just looking at Soren the whole time or something. Or maybe blues. Doesn't really matter. Regardless, Cubit needs to pick his last one. It looks like going to just be silicon. Plenty of silicon available on this map. Don't know if it was absolutely necessary to secure some of it so early rather than moving into something like double glass furnace, scrapping the aluminum, but it should be an acceptable play. It is a very standard scavenger move. Blues is still stuck on HQ level 1. He was last to found, moved into too much iron and aluminum. Did not move into enough steel, and so he is definitely going to be struggling this game. Not off to a fast start at all. This is what happens when you are late to found against someone with such strong tiles as PB had. They are going to take that cash from iron immediately. You are not going to have the money to buy the steel that you need to upgrade, and it puts you into a very, very awkward position at the start of the game. Have to be aware of the fact that when you found late, you need to move into steel, basically, as an expansive player. Unless, for some reason, nobody is selling iron, which does happen. PB Head has managed to move up to HQ level 3. He should be looking at power before long, not letting his debt get overly out of control. He elected not to secure this geotherm on HQ level 3. I think that was a big mistake. He should have known that someone like Cubit would be after his geotherm to take it away from him. Instead, he selected to go for a lot of water and not commit steel to this geotherm, not commit a claim to that geotherm, and I definitely don't like that decision. He's still in a strong place. He should be able to upgrade very, very soon, as he is producing a very large amount of steel here. Already has the electronics secured, and the water is doing just enough that he'll be able to get some more electronics purchased up before too long, and at least get all of his buildings constructed if he decides that's necessary. Whichever he decides is necessary first at HQ level 4. Regardless, I don't really like the move of letting this geotherm slip through his fingers. Soren has pushed to HQ level 3. He is doing very, very standard things with that. Once again, Soren in an absolutely fantastic amount of debt. I mean, that is nuts. 107,000 so far this game. He is not a robot. He has to watch out for these life support prices. He has to watch out for just... He just has to watch out more, guys. I don't know how else to put it. Now, PB Head, he should have actually taken power. He's going to be forced to take wind turbines instead. He's not really taking advantage of himself as a robot, in my opinion at this point, not taking that geotherm off his fast upgrades. So on and so forth from there. Has put himself into a bit of a bind. But Soren, long term, could suffer quite heavily from this debt. Even though he's already on HQ level 3 and making decent money with his tiles, he is still not in a good spot and is going to have to just flood that power market to pay down some of this, I think, if he can manage to push to HQ level 4, which he should be able to do fairly soon. PB Head already on 4. He just committed everything to power. It got frozen immediately with an EMP. Not surprised at all.
Just disappointed in you.
PB Head trying, it looks like. to knock down the Goon Squad. He expected this to be Goon Squatted. That was just a simple network virus getting thrown at him. Thrown at Cubit. So that was expected to be caught. And it most certainly was. Cubit just putting everything he has into making sure PB Head does not get to take an advantage off of his early found and is in fact punished for it with all this power play. You can't meta game at all. Oh man. PB Head does have a point. He is down a game. It is pretty obviously him. He's making very, very obvious PB Head plays. PB Head not at risk of winning the tournament this game, or other players aren't at risk of him winning the tournament this game, I should say. But attacking him still does make an awful lot of sense to me if you were someone like Cubit or Soren. Soren in particular, I think, should have gotten very, very aggressive against PB Head after all the plays that Cubit had already made to knock him down. Soren could easily sit on HQ level 4, make money off of all of his stuff very easily as a scientific player, and begin purchasing PB Head's stock, and certainly create a very, very interesting situation this game. That's what I would have absolutely loved to see out of Soren at this point. Continual attacks on PB Head until he's dead. If a majority buyout does not happen on PB Head this game, I am going to go nuts, and I've lost all faith in these players.
Your stock is being bought.
All right.
Your stock is being bought.
We do see people starting to get aggressive against PB Head stock. It is both Soren and Cubit attempting to push for it. Cubit is sitting on about $16,000. Soren on about only 3.5. So Cubit, it does look like, is in a slightly better position to try and get this purchase onto PB Head. Just from the immediate position, but I am concerned about how much money Cubit's actually making in the moment. I guess the big thing is Cubit, once again, no debt. He is making a ridiculous amount on power. He's making an absolute insane amount of money on power. Nobody has shut that down. Nighttime has come, and that's going to slow it down a bit, but this power play from Cubit, I expect, is just going to carry him on through to the majority buy, and everyone else is going to have a very hard time this game, unless Soren can manage to get at least one more stock purchased up. Alright, PB Head gets that stock purchased up. He does guarantee his survival for now. And now Cubit has decided he just wants that money back. He's not interested in playing the stock game at all right now. He's just taking that money back, which indicates to me that he is likely going to want an upgrade fairly quickly. He only took one back, though. Are you going to upgrade? There it is. So Cubit has managed to push to HQ level 5 second after PB Head. PB Head not really making a whole lot of money at the moment, it looks like. Has to be too concerned about power and paying down debt. Already, most of his stock has disappeared, so I actually don't like that decision out of him necessarily. What I almost want to see out of PB Head right now is a focus, would have been a focus on making cold hard cash. Whoa, that is dangerous out of Cubit. Oh, Soren, you upgraded! Soren, you upgraded! Oh, no. That could have just gotten so much more interesting. Now, Cubit is still sitting on an absolutely insane amount of cash based off of power. There needs to be all kinds of shutdown happening on Cubit's power right now. Absolutely, or it should have been a long time ago, quite frankly. Power's falling off rapidly at this point. So Cubit's made his money, but it's more than enough to do something like threaten Soren. And Soren has not set himself up in a position where he can defend against this whatsoever. He is trying to buy some of his own stock, but Cubit just has so much cash, guys. And almost all of this is power, right? The reactors are doing well at this point. On the other hand, they could have just been more power earlier. Water's not really doing a whole lot. The glass isn't doing much. The silicon's not doing anything. Alright. Cubit actually does elect to just go for the PB Head buy. So PB Head gonna get knocked out of this one. I don't believe that was even a majority. That was just a very simple, I am going to shift by you at some point.
Bidding will begin at
Worked out well.
Expansive colony expanded.
7,000, 8,000, 9,000, thousand. 10,000.
Alright, claim auction. Don't really know what's going to happen here. Soren and Blues both will be looking to
bandits.
1,000.
get very aggressive against Cubit.
6.
As they should know for sure by now that this is Cubit. This is the exact same style he went with last game. He is once again
1,000.
not being punished for it at all. There are plenty of tools to have done so. These dynamites would have been very, very strong early on. The EMPs could have had some usefulness as well. But both Blues and Soren, I'm curious what they've done in the black market so far this game. This is a very important detail. PB had only made 2 black market purchases, but that was because he was in D debt most of the time. Cubit has made 11. Whereas Blues has made 4 and Soren has made 4. That is not enough, especially because a lot of them, like Soren made 2 claim purchases, and it looks like Blues was trying to get some mutinies down. Those are definitely strong decisions. But one of them, like some of those were only just now happening, EMPs onto this carbon, trying to make sure that Cubit can't actually keep expanding and pressing forward. Unfortunately, it's a little late. He's already gotten most of his buildings constructed, although it might hurt some of his electronics income. Soren has pushed into a patent office and carbon scrubbing. That's going to be strong for him with his electronics production, one has to expect. But he doesn't have teleportation yet, and he is getting pirated. So he is going to have to watch out for that. Not necessarily in a strong place is Soren at this point. Blue's sitting on a fair amount of cash, enough that he can threaten Soren a bit, but not enough to actually finish a buyout, as he would need to go for a full buyout this game, I believe. Blues has managed to, however, push to HQ level 5, but once again, Cubit's the scary one here. His stock price is very, very high. He got 8 extra claims, so that compensates for the fact that he was scavenger this game. And the big deal, I believe, is that he only now has pushed into an engineering lab, and he hasn't pushed into a patent office or anything of that sort just yet. So there is the potential for Blues to successfully be a threat this game. However, he needs to keep this engineering lab functional. He needs to make money in the right places. And we need to take a look at Offworld Market. Yeah, that's understandable, PB. Alright, so Offworld Market, much stronger this game. 541 on food is what we're looking at. Blues should have one of those down now. Like, at this moment, there should be an Offworld Market building, in my opinion. There is no excuse for not having an Offworld Market constructing this game, with food being that strong.
Up for auction. Bidding will
Instead, it looks like Blues is trying to make some stock purchases onto Soren. That is not a good thing at all for either player. It's just going to distract both of them away from Cubit, who will eventually manage to construct an Offworld Market of his own. And man, that carbon surplus, that's interesting. Pleasure Dome coming down for Cubit, no big surprise. He's only sitting on about $31,000 of debt. Pleasure Dome should pay through that fairly quickly. Where's the Offworlds? Alright, good, there is an Offworld. Thank you. 25 seconds in for Blues. That's how far he is into this Offworld. He is going to be trying to use that to press on through. It needs to be goon squatted. Should have been goon squatted yesterday at this point. Hopefully he will be alright. Whereas Soren is just trying to sit on this patent office. Not necessarily a bad decision. He is scientific, which definitely allows him to more easily utilize the patent office. It just does its research so darn fast that he should be in a fairly strong position. Big freeze, down onto Blues, didn't hit his Offworld, which was hologrammed, did appear for just a moment, as that is what holograms do for reasons, I can't tell you why. Everybody, of course, does know about the hologram, so... Oh, he's actually got a second one constructed. Maybe he's had that up the whole time and I just didn't see it. Regardless, Cubit is still sitting on a good amount of money right now. Threatening Blues so effectively. I guess Blues just needs to purchase one more stock and he will be secure against Cubit. Hard to say exactly what Cubit's thoughts are at this point. He did push to the Offworld as expected. He can obviously build 4 of them if he likes. And he does have 2 engineering labs running, so you can tell that he's still in a fairly strong position. Now, no spies this game, so it's a little bit difficult to be sure exactly what buildings are what for everyone. Holograms are being used quite extensively here. So we are just going to have to see how that goes. However, it should be very obvious to everyone that this building is an Offworld. If they've been paying attention, they saw it as an electrolysis reactor, then an engineering lab. It is likely going to switch over to food. There it goes. In just a moment, that building can only be a hologram, and therefore is very likely to be an Offworld. Blues does have a lot of cash on hand. He can start threatening Cubit, but Cubit should be able to defend himself against it. But Blues was the first to the double Offworld. No adrenaline boosts to really abuse it this game, but still could easily set himself up in a very strong position here. He also has this very nice carbon production for himself. A little bit of it's kind of frozen-y at the moment, but still very nice, as whenever Cubit is moving into Offworlds, it just hands more money over to Blues, and of course Soren is just elected to ignore the situation and take carbon scrubbing. He has moved out of the patent office at this point and into his own Offworld. Soren definitely kind of lagging behind this time. It is more Cubit and Blues who are the aggressors here. The question is, who can afford to get aggressive and defend themselves at the same time? And unfortunately for Blues, Cubit's stock price is just so high. It's going to be very difficult to press through it, even with the double Offworlds launching food. He also has a ridiculous amount of food production to go along with that. I am concerned about his water. It doesn't look like Blues set up for that perfectly quite yet. He is instead opting to just learn how to make food better, which is fine and can work, certainly. Cubit is just burning cash with some of these reactors. I know they're not all reactors, but still, Cubit, you got to make some transitions. That carbon price has been causing him some problems, and 5 tiles committed to carbon is quite a large number. Blues may be in a position to turn this one on its head with just a little bit of help from Soren, and Soren really should be helping Blues right now, if you're thinking in terms of the meta sense, which he kind of is by purchasing up Blues stock. It's the kind of play that's actually a very strong thing for both Soren and Blues. It's exactly what you want to see, because Soren is no threat to Blues at the moment. Blues shouldn't mind Soren having his stock, but Cubit's definitely not going to be happy about it. So, from both a game sense and a meta sense, these two players need to be working together to bring down Cubit. And we'll just have to see what happens, because if Cubit takes this one, he takes the game, and everybody can be fairly certain this is Cubit. He's been making very, very Cubit-style plays. Cubit also has a fairly large amount of power production, but was not selling power. There, he just started again a moment ago. So he was trying to force an issue of it, but I don't know if it went too well for him. So let's actually check where we lay with this stock. We're looking at food, still making strong money in Offworlds. Blues is still in 2 of them. Cubit only ever pushed to 1. He may be headed for a second if he can pull it off, but he is definitely not in a strong place right now. He is not successfully making huge amounts of cash, although much of his stuff has become more beneficial once he knocked that water price down. So that's at least going a bit better for him. Blues needs 651,000 at the moment to kill Cubit. Cubit needs 623,000. So Cubit needs a little bit less cash. Very impressive work by Blues, actually, to push the game to that point where he doesn't need too much less than Cubit in order to succeed in that buyout. Now, this whole time, Soren is still sitting there, and he is at risk, but nobody is likely focusing on him too much. I would love to see him just churning out engineering labs right now, being like, you two need to kill each other first. My chance is to come back when none of you are paying attention. So just committing super hard to eventual money, not current money, is what I want to see him do as much as he possibly can. Whoa! Alright. Dynamite hit, but I think that was just... Oh, that was an Offworld market getting taken down. Was hologrammed, but somebody identified it, got that dynamite hit. That's very, very strong indeed. Blue's Offworlds are all still just fine. That is quite a lot of cash taken away from Cubit. Glass and electronics, both very, very expensive. Not a good place for Cubit to be. He's only sitting on 150,000. Blues is looking at more like 370. So Blues very far ahead in this race, but Soren is still a threat back here. He's turning himself into more of one. As you can see, he's rebuilding a steel mill. That's unfortunate for him. But he does have a pleasure dome of his own coming down. That is not going to make a lot of cash, but it will cut into Cubit quite heavily, which is all Soren really cares about right now. Soren would love to take this win as he would take the match with it, but the most important thing to him is that Cubit does not take this game. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Blues still sitting on only about $400,000 now, it looks like. He is making money very gradually. Still, just those off-world launches, making sure to keep him in it. These engineering labs are okay, I suppose, maybe a bit aggressive on them. That is a very large amount. Would have loved to see a little more aluminum getting collected, for example, if at all possible, but unfortunately the off-world market is a bit poorly placed for that. Excuse me, guys, all this talking has driven me a little hoarse over here. Blues is sitting on a fairly ridiculous amount of iron, it should be noted. Almost 3,000. It's worth $60 a piece, but doesn't really do a whole lot for him in the moment. Still looking at about 715 to finish it off. Cubit probably going to be looking at more like 700 by the time everything is said and done. Cubit is pushing into 3 off-worlds at this point, trying to get them constructed so he can very effectively make money. But this just opens up more holes in certain ways for him to get mutinied, for him to get attacked again and again and again. Mutinied down onto this hacker array, which is actually a hacker array. Might not have been exactly what Cubit was after, but he will be able to use it. Both players actually going for an aluminum shortage right now, which amuses me quite a bit. I'm glad Cubit finally managed to move into aluminum. The price was up at $200. This shortage should work out very, very well for him to make money, but I do worry that it's going to be too little too late. Blues is knocking on the door 90%. Cubit's down at 50 still. This shortage is going to have to get a lot of work done in order to pull Cubit back into the game. But combined with the ridiculous price of aluminum and the fact that Cubit is pulling in far too much of that, it may still do what it needs to do. But the mutiny is going to run out. Oh, the mutiny's only thinking machines is really biting back here. Cubit doesn't have his own hack array. He's going to have to commit another mutiny to this if he actually wants the shortage to go through. He's planning on it. I don't know if he noticed that is not happening right now. That did not go through. Absolutely did not. But Cubit is sitting on 86%. It's just all that aluminum getting pulled in. But Blues is up at 99. 100 for Blues. Does he notice it? The red button's there. Blues is going to bring down Cubit. So now it's just down to Soren and Blues. And so if Soren can pull this back, he takes the game. But Soren has a very long hill to climb here. Very steep hill to climb as well. I mean, he's looking at 1.1 million is what he's going to require to finish this off, whereas Blues only needs 888,000. Let's go ahead and check tech to make sure we're not being too ridiculous here. Blues has about, looks like we're looking at 13 techs taken, whereas Soren is sitting on a similar number. He's only got 9, it looks like. On top of that, Soren's is all in electronics, which I don't believe he's even making at the moment. That's his primary thing. Aluminum, by the way, guys, is stupid. So Blues, I'm very disappointed in you right now because you have used all your claims and they weren't on these 3 tiles right here. But it does look like he has managed to take some aluminum. Looks like he just took the ones right next to him instead. That's acceptable. Obviously, these would have been better, even with slant drilling. And they would have been far more, you know, would have kind of steered away from the EMP and such. But it is good that Blues kind of identified, hey, aluminum's kind of good. Maybe I should use it. And he is utilizing slant drilling to get that work done. So that is good for him overall. Man, that thinking machines. I think thinking machines may have actually won Blues this game. I'm just throwing it out there. Like, that made such a huge difference, the aluminum shortage not going through, potentially. absolutely insane.
We caught a dirty rat trying to
All right,
break
guys.
our stuff.
Well, they're on very, very similar percentages right now, but Blues, he is on 2 Offworld markets. He is making a ridiculous amount of money still from this aluminum. I don't see if Soren I don't think Soren has the edge here. Now, Blues may not identify the fact that Soren has all these Offworlds. In fact, I can be quite sure that he hasn't figured out where the other Offworld is, as it is not Goon Squatted, and Blues is attacking the one that was. So that is unfortunate for Blues. But he can still use this mutiny. He can still kind of force Soren into a defensive position and try to push to a place where he'll finish this off. In fact, Blues, yes, he is making money a bit faster. We're seeing the 75%. As opposed to about 63 is what Soren is looking at right now. So it does look like Blues will be in a position to take this game. He just needs to play the rest of it out properly. As an example, stop making glass, maybe move into some reactors if that's reasonable. There we see them coming down. Another Offworld is being constructed, and I don't particularly like that, but it doesn't matter all that much since Blues still has the lead. Guaranteeing you're going to make more money when you can maintain the lead the entire time is almost never a bad decision, even if it's not necessarily the best decision. 88% for Blues, still 70 back for Soren. I do think we are about to see a game number 4 here and have it all tied up for everybody who isn't PB Head. Still struggling for his first win, getting punished quite heavily for some of his early and poor founding decisions, it looks like.
We caught a dirty rat trying to break our stuff.
Regardless, we're still not there yet, though. 14% is the edge that Blues has right now. Soren is fighting back the best he can with mutinies, it would appear, and making sure to stay goon squatted so that he is going to be safe. But I don't think it's going to quite be there. 95% for Blues now. He is just waiting on another launch or two to finish this up. In fact, canceling this launch, letting this one complete, should push him there. Making transitions not really what you're after right now. There, the red button did appear, and Blues is going to take game number 3 and push us up to a game number 4. All right. That was good work that game by a lot of people. Qubit did an excellent job knocking out PB Head early, getting to that majority buyout. But I think after that, he just stalled out too heavily. Offworlds were so strong that game. Blues just rushed to them, got them established, and nothing ever even got thrown at them. And so Blues was able to just take it, I think, solely off of the Offworld play, really. They were that strong this game. We can see 1.3 million being made there. All this aluminum for Blues that could have been made for Qubit. Actually, it couldn't have been made for Qubit. Qubit artificially holding that price up a fair amount, whereas Blues, he made so much money off of that. That might have actually made the difference in Blues managing to pull on through. The idea that that price was so high, and Blues got an advantage off of it. If Qubit had sold down, that price would have gone back so low, and Blues would not have had that additional bit of income to push on through. That game could have been a whole lot closer and maybe even leaned Soren's way. So that potentially a very strong meta move by Blues. The idea of he couldn't afford, by Qubit, he couldn't afford for Soren to win that game. So he just gives Blues that slight little edge as he's forced out of the match. Maybe not exactly what he was going for, but it's what worked out anyways. Guys, I'm going to get game number 4 set up, but I need to take a minute. As you can hear, my voice is gone. I need to stop talking for like 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to game number 4. All right, I'm back. Hello everyone, and welcome to game number 4 in our FFA finals. Everybody has managed to pick up a game at this point, excluding Nevermind. This is what I get. See, I tried to hurry things along and take care of my voice at the same time, and nope, I was an observer, which is good because that map looked way too easy. My voice hurts. Nobody yelled at me. I blame everyone for this. Even Twitch chat. Just busy throwing out its silly little emotes. Not helping me realize that I'm set as a player and not an observer. Alright, let's actually do this. I don't know, I think PB Head could use a free win right about now. Oh man, we've got the super secret Team 8 strategies coming out from PB. He's good to go now. That's true, Twitch chat is never wrong. Yesterday they tried to help, the day before, something like that. Tried to help Crip stop from getting burgled. Crip didn't listen, not right away. We're getting a bit silly here. That's true. That is true, Twitch chat. You guys are ridiculous. Alright, here we go. I'm just gonna go with... Hello everyone, and welcome to game number 4 in our FFA tournament finals. Everybody has managed to pick up a win so far, excluding PB Head, still stuck on 0. He is going to have to win the next 2 in a row in order to take this match. Blues, Cubit, and Soren, on the other hand, If any of them manage to take this one, the series will end right then and there. Plenty of resources on this map, but silicon is definitely a bit light. Only 6 of those, all of them are low. That is going to make glass a bit more interesting in this match. And then only 11 carbon. There are some highs, but without adjacency. It is usable, but not absolutely great. So Qubit is actually going to elect to take a scientific location without a steel triangle, but with strong aluminum and water nearby. I definitely like this decision out of Qubit here. Sacrifice the triangle, but with it, you avoid the magnetic storms. Everything stays very close and compact together. Definitely something a scientist can get away with. I believe Blues was our next to found. He has also not taken a triangle, which is actually a bit more interesting in his position, considering he had the option to. He instead just has a line of steel mills running, and he is going to be relying on those to go ahead and push through to HQ level 2, with good water once again near him, and some decent power instead of aluminum. Alright, making sure I got the found order straight. PB Head was next. He is just going for a power play off in the corner, trying to sit on 4 of that silicon. So I believe he ate 2 of them and left 2 more. So now there are only 2 silicon tiles left. Definitely an interesting play out of PB Head, trying to make power robot work this game. Different from anything else he's ever done before. Alright, and then finally, Soren threw down Scavenger. He is using the high carbon tiles without adjacency. Still 4 carbon a second. Definitely a reasonable decision. And he found it in the middle of a large plot of water with aluminum nearby. So with dry ice helping him, he should be able to push through this game all right. But silicon is still looking very, very awkward this game. Alright. PB Head obviously not allowed to take this tile. All the others will be bidding on it. 24,000, 28,000. That is very expensive out of Soren. That is a lot of money to pay for a geotherm at this point. He's likely should not use it anytime soon. He needs to get to 2, possibly HQ level 3, before he even thinks about it. He's only running on 4 carbon a second, not something ridiculous like 5 or 6. And so I don't believe he can afford to actually put that plant down anytime soon, but having the tile long term is still fairly nice. PB Head's still stuck on HQ level 1. It is nighttime. He's not making any money anytime soon. But as long as nobody else puts down too much power, he should be okay. Unfortunately for him, both scientists chose to move into water. That is not what PB Head would have been hoping for. He wants to see these guys consuming a lot of power to drive that price up for him, and they just are not. However, nobody has moved into power just yet. So he may still be okay here this game. That is an interesting auction. That was an auction almost certainly started by Blues. He is willing to pay quite a bit of debt for this extra tile at the risk of giving it to someone else, it looks like. Still nowhere near as strong as a claim, but maybe that's okay. He does get it, so 20,000 debt and $2,000 is what Blues is willing to pay to link up his farms, make sure that magnetic storms couldn't be a problem, and to just get an extra tile on top of that. Should be a reasonable decision. Glass is gonna be awkward this game. Qubit has already pushed into plenty of glass to upgrade, which is exactly what I expect out of him. Soren has done the same. Blues, because he elected to go into that auction, has not. So he will be the last to that, and that definitely could cause him some problems long term. Let's see, Soren has actually chosen to secure both of the remaining silicon tiles, and now he is pushing for that HQ level 3 geotherm. With aluminum being as expensive as it is, that could be an acceptable decision out of him. Meanwhile, PB Head has managed to push into some additional power, has used up all of his claims, gathering up some iron and aluminum for himself. Definitely a reasonable decision. Nobody is collecting iron at all this game besides PB Head. So even with this being so far away and costing him quite a bit of power, it should still manage to make him a decent amount of money. But as you can see, this is costing him almost 40 power to both run this building and do the shipments. Now we're looking at closer to 50. So he does need to be careful about that. It is cutting into his profits, and it's not making quite as much money as one would expect from something pulling in $120 a second. Is this actually getting an adjacency bonus right now? That's very awkward. There's nothing next to it. But it doesn't look like it's actually getting a bonus either. I would yell at the UI guys for that, because it does look like a UI problem rather than an actual problem.
The black market is
But
online.
the UI is getting shifted around in a minute anyway. Let's get back to the game. So, Qubit, he has managed to secure a geotherm. The time of PB Head's power monopoly has passed at this point. More geotherms coming online. He is also going ahead and gathering up some water, as there is not a lot of that being collected right now. And Soren is consuming some small amount of it, at least. Could go reasonably well for him, but I kind of like Blue's position here. Blue's has quite a lot of money. He's got these reactors down already, which is absolutely fantastic. Just a triangle of reactors, a triangle of farms, plenty of steel. He doesn't get to link up this geotherm because Qubit took it, but Blues does have to be careful about power. I believe that is the thing he has chosen to skip so far, so he needs to hit HQ level 4 very quickly and get some power online, be it solar, geo, I don't really care. He just needs to get it done, otherwise debt will once again be his downfall this game. Qubit is moving into slant drilling, which I think makes a fair amount of sense. That will allow him to make silicon very easily. He could go into slant drilling plus teleportation and get effectively a stranglehold on that particular market. And it looks like Qubit is trying to take a few extra tiles for himself with auctions as well. You can tell Qubit doesn't want to make money from power or virtual reality this game. It is a very awkward claim for anybody else to take as well. So I like that decision in particular. $16,000 and about $3,000, I believe, for that. Perhaps a reasonable, likely a reasonable price to pay for a claim at this point. And it is just going to be some basic steel production. Nothing too surprising about that. Blues is on HQ4 at this point, by the way. He has claimed a geotherm. He needs to actually put the building down before too long. Very expensive with all that steel cost, but still needs to be done. And what else does he have? It looks like he's been using... He has a mule running. I think that's actually Soren's mule, possibly. We'll see exactly where it goes. Yeah, that is Soren's mule running. All right. Whoa, an iron shortage. PB Head getting very aggressive. He has been sitting in his corner on that hacker array, collecting iron, still making money from power. And we'll have to see how these shortages pan out. He's going for 2 of them. How much cash is he actually sitting on? $60,000 is what PB Head is sitting on. That is enough to start looking at killing someone. After this second shortage, he could be in a position to seriously press on through and take somebody down if they take an upgrade that they can't afford. As an example, Soren's only sitting on about $15,000. Blue's on about 22, and Qubit down at a very small number of almost nothing. PB Head was hit by dynamite on his iron. That will slow him down a bit, but I think he's already gotten most of the iron collected that he actually needs. So I don't know if that's going to make too much of a difference. He's already so heavily goon squatted in this area. Even an EMP landing won't cause him too many problems. I would have maybe liked to see him turn these metal mines off, in fact, as they're almost certainly not actually successfully making much money right now, as that price is being artificially inflated more than anything else. Alright, people have tried to move into iron to counter this play. Obviously, that's still a strong move for PB Head to force a transition like that, and he is after Qubit. Qubit was the obvious target. Qubit sitting on no money. Qubit transitioning into iron at a bad time for it, when it was very expensive and about to be absolutely worthless. PB Head needs one more stock purchase in order to lock this up, and he is gonna get it. Qubit knocked out of this. He is not winning the match this game. PB Head with a strong power play. The question will be, how can he follow it up effectively? His opponent was only HQ level 4. Not quite pushing to HQ level 5. So PB Head does not have the ability to do something like build off-world markets. He has also only received 7 claims from that purchase instead of 8. So it is not as much of an advantage as one would hope, but it is still a very early buy that helps keep him in this game. But I would not call it too much of a lead just yet. Blues is on HQ level 5, which I believe will give him more claims than PB Head has still at this moment. Blues is going to be looking at potentially pushing into, I would love to see him take this geotherm, but
Want a hologram?
he is going to be looking at pushing into engineering lab, patent office, all those standard late game buildings are what he needs to be looking to and making sure that he does not die to debt, whereas PB Head's focus is still going to be on getting through upgrades, since he will need to push through 8 to HQ level 5 in order to successfully be able to construct off-worlds this game. That in mind, let's check off-world prices once again. Water at $3.19, not a bad price, needs to be kept an eye on. Food at $4.10, oxygen $3.79, fuel $4.06, so a moderate off-world this game, it would appear. Chems at $3.91, electronics $3.51, glass $3.60. So a lot of stuff hanging out in that $3.50 to $400 range, which pretty much guarantees that the off-world will be reasonably profitable. At least one of those is likely to be valuable to send. And so those should become a factor at some point this game. PB Head has the upgrade available, but he may just choose to continue the play as he's been making it. Soren has quite a bit of silicon, but not enough to really hamper this too much. PB Head not looking for upgrades. He says, I want this game over now. So he is going to be trying to make that happen. Blues is very likely to be his target. Blues on HQ level 5 does have the ability to defend himself, but not near so well as Soren. I don't think PB Head is going to be able to actually lock either of them up here, but he can definitely put the fear into them and make them defend themselves, which will at least slow them down. Afterward, PB Head will have enough money to push to an upgrade to keep planting buildings. So he should be in a solid position from here. And Blues, you have got to sell that steel and buy yourself. Come on. No, Blues not going to do it. That should not have happened. That absolutely should not have happened. Blues had the money sitting around to save himself, but he needed to sell his steel and make it happen. He did not. And so he is just knocked straight on out of this. And suddenly, PB Head certainly has a massive lead. Far more claims than Soren. Far more everything than Soren. Still sitting on 82% of what he needs to make a purchase, with another shortage in water this time on the way. Soren not successfully pulling in a whole lot of water. Yeah, I don't know who would have thought that, but you definitely always need to be looking out for PB. Just because he's lost the last 2 games doesn't mean he's not going to come back into it. And are we going to see him manage to close this out? Alright, claim auction is going to slow us down for just a moment, but Soren is looking at that 100% right now, and he definitely needs to be concerned. PB Head sitting on 118,000. Soren just gives it up. Says nope. Nope, 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 nope. He's done. So everybody's taken a game so far. I think no matter what the actual conclusion is here for this last one, which it is all on the line in this last game, everybody has shown that they kind of deserve to be here. Nobody's running away with this tournament. Alright. Strong power play into Hacker Array out of PB Head this time. I have to give it to him. He found the perfect market to move into with that iron. Chose it over the silicon, which was the more obvious decision. It worked out brilliantly for him. That was fantastic. I was worried about the power cost of shipping the iron, but it was not enough to slow him down, that's for sure. Worked out absolutely brilliantly. Alright guys, that is game 4, and we're moving on to a game 5. I'm going to get out of here, and let's go ahead and head on into that one. Guys, I'm just choosing to save my voice for the most part between games, so I'm sorry for that, but you're not going to get a lot out of me right now. All right, well, I think Cubit had already said he was ready, so, and PB Head sounds ready. Can't type. I want to make 100% because it was a while. Hello everyone, and welcome to game number 5 in our FFA finals between PB Head, Cubit, Soren Johnson, and Blues. Everyone has managed to take a game at this point. I believe the first time we have seen that over the course of this tournament. Everybody definitely proving that they deserve to be here. PB Head is coming off the most recent win, though. We'll have to see if he can carry that momentum forward. Making a very strong robotic power play, doing it just about in the most perfect fashion that I've ever seen. And so he has got to be feeling good after that win. Soren's been struggling since his first victory. We'll have to see if he can turn it around at this point. And Cubit and Blues still also hanging out. Strong players that you can't discount at all. Soren is going to be the first one to found. He's going to take a little aluminum, a little carbon, and found in a crater as scavenger. Exactly the sort of play you expect to see out of Soren. After that, we had Blues coming down. He's just grabbing an expansive spot with some iron in the top corner. It should be noted there is dry ice literally all over this map. He's likely just going to be collecting iron and aluminum to move forward to HQ level 2. Cubit He's also moved into expansive, but he chose to go straight into steel rather than iron. Definitely a fortunate thing for blues here that Cubit elected to do that. They're staying out of each other's way and hopefully not jacking that steel price too much, but perhaps a bit of an edge towards Cubit here. Hard to say for sure at first. PB had a very similar opening to Cubit. A little bit more iron, a little bit less steel. He will want to add to that now, but he should be well set up with a basic robotic opening at this point. Is this aluminum? I don't know if I agree with that decision, but aluminum is a bit expensive. Maybe it's iron. It can't be iron. That would be ridiculous. It's aluminum. He's not even going to get a hold of it. He will be beaten to that by Cubit, so PB had forced to expand into steel. We'll see how he repositions that last claim. Blues once again a little bit stuck behind everybody. That aluminum very far away from his base, and it's causing him problems right now, as well as the fact that his iron is not making any money. Too many people in that resource at the start of this game. He didn't have the steel production. He was not good to go. 32,000. Well, if you needed any more proof that the robot was PB this game, there you go. 32,000 claim heads on over to him. So Cubit is sitting on very, very little debt. Blues is sitting on a small amount of debt. Everybody else, Soren and PB, both sitting on a significant amount. Soren from his early claim, or sorry, from his early found, and PB Head from his early claim auction that he selected. PB Head did just go ahead and grab that geotherm that was right next to him. I don't want to see him take that right away necessarily, but I like the fact that he has it secured. He also is gathering up plenty of water, it looks like. And so I'm hoping to see PB Head, for his own sake, just pushing on to HQ level 2. It looks like that's what he's set up for since he's already purchased his electronics. Sorry, HQ level 3. Looks like what he's set up for, given that he's already purchased his electronics. And then from there, getting that geotherm established and moving forward. Soren was our first to found, gathering up 3 carbon a second. Got the very, very basic scavenger opening. Just some carbon, water, silicon, aluminum. And where is your last claim, Soren? You should have one more. It's on this empty geotherm, which he elected not to build into this time. Certainly a better decision, I think. Although I don't know if he really needed to secure it that early. Would have rather seen him have something like an extra carbon tile or a glass furnace down. Regardless, he's moving into the glass now. He already has the silicon secured for this, so it is a good thing for him to get into. And he is the first to HQ level 3 still. So still in a strong position this game. Blues, certainly the farthest behind going into HQ level 2. We'll have to see if he has managed to recover since then. He is the first to HQ level 3 as the first of the expansives to HQ level 3, second to level 3 overall, which is interesting that he beat PB Head. Basically, PB Head did go ahead and move into the geotherm. Huge mistake out of PB Head, I think, because he had committed resources to these electronics. He had committed resources to this aluminum. If he had wanted to go for this geotherm, he could have built it a very long time ago and chose not to. Definitely a poor decision, I think, even though the price of steel is very low right now. Whereas Cubit, he's done a very similar thing, also moved into a geotherm much earlier than PB did. But he has also secured goon squads for both the geo and his steel, whereas PB has only goon squatted his steel. Both of those players playing very defensively. Blues, on the other hand, choosing to take level 3 when it came, as he was running behind at HQ level 2. Couldn't afford those diversions the other players were taking. Another big claim on over to PB Head. That is putting him in a large amount of debt, but it does secure another geotherm for him. Very close to his base, which could pay off that debt quite effectively, given that power is still very expensive and increasing in price right now. Soren, I don't believe, has constructed any power yet. He's working on getting his geotherm online right now. Blues does have one geotherm online. He is headed to a second one. So if PB Head wants any advantage off of this, he needs to build it right away, and even then it might be too little too late, considering that power is kind of hanging out at that 190 and slowly working its way down at this point. Boost on to Cubit's power. That's interesting. He wants to start making money from power again. EMP did get tossed out. A safe EMP, basically It was hoping that the goon squad wasn't there, but it expected that it was. That's what that EMP was. It hit right around here, one of these two tiles, trying to spread to the geotherm and knock out most of its boost, but avoiding bouncing in case the goon was there. I like that decision, I think. Now people know they can just network virus that in the future to get rid of the goon if they need to tear through that geotherm, which would very likely be a good decision, as that is a lot of money in Qubit's pocket right now. Almost 600 a second from that geotherm. Falling rapidly, but still a lot of money. Alright. We did have an adrenaline boost onto Soren's geotherm as well. That's less of a strong decision. Still works. But obviously for Soren, it's simply paying down debt, doing nothing to actually make him any amount of money. Well, that was just a rather interesting string of upgrades. So all of our players very similar in HQ level 4, except for Qubit, who once again has taken those side roads to try and secure a better overall position as he pushes through, rather than just rushing to secure the biggest number of tiles that he can rapidly. These goon squads are an advantage that need to be accounted for. His lack of debt is an advantage that needs to be accounted for, but he's starting to gain debt rapidly once again. Everybody knocked that power price down this game. Everybody was producing at least 4 units, was producing 4 units of power at some point, with combination of these boosts and the extra geotherms getting taken. So Qubit doesn't get nearly the strong power play that he has in the past. Everybody kind of wary to that, making sure they pay plenty of attention.
16,000, 20,000.
All right.
24,000, 28,000.
Man, these guys in their claim auctions not wanting to let him go. PB Head can't afford this. He absolutely can't. He's still at 95,000 debt. Soren can afford it. You almost can look at it like he kind of paid for that with his boost. All that extra debt he paid down from it, helping him to get that extra claim now. So turning an adrenaline boost into a new claim is certainly an interesting decision. And let's see what else we've got going on. Wow. People identified this as Qubit, and it feels like they're playing a little scared here. On the other hand, this is a strong freeze out of Blues. I am assuming the one who made it is Blues. He has his reactors running. He wants them making money. He does not want anyone else in the way of his market, so he's just going to shut down the reactors from Qubit, make sure that he keeps himself in a strong spot. And suddenly Qubit is looking like he is running a bit behind here. Still has those strong goon squads, but other than that, might be in a bit of trouble. Pirates getting work done with the silicon. That's definitely a good decision. Soren has mutinied away some silicon from an opponent, trying to make sure to kind of compensate for those pirates. I don't know whose pirates those are for sure. It's very difficult to keep track of all that. But it's good to see those getting some use this game on top of water and on top of silicon. Look at this. Look at all this piracy going on, guys. It's ridiculous. I love it. Aluminum up at $80 a piece as well. So that's certainly another thing these pirates are targeted at. You can see they're all in this aluminum line. Some of them positioned to not intercept so many other things. Some of them very clearly positioned to intercept kind of whatever is passing through. Although I expect these pirates are likely Qubits, which makes it look like they're intercepting water, but they wouldn't, as it's his water. It's hard to say overall, guys. That is just a huge tangled mess in there, but everybody wants a piece of that aluminum market right now. I wonder if these are actually avoiding the silicon that's coming through. It's really hard to see for sure. I wish pirates were a bit more clear in exactly what territory they were taking, as suddenly it matters in this area. Okay, well, aluminum's still ridiculous. Everybody once again going through in a fairly interesting slew of upgrades. PB was the first to push there, but that is expected, so I have to give an advantage to Blues at this point in the game. Very quick upgrades from him. He's set himself up in a fairly strong territory. He's got the patent office down. He's got the engineering lab down. We do need to see those start working, and he does need to start potentially defending himself with goon squads, or he could lose that lead very quickly to someone like Soren. PB Head, of course, he is actually, never mind, PB Head, wow.
The black market
He's gotten a
is
lot of work
right.
done since he hit HQ level 5, already in an Offworld. Those adrenaline boosts working out very, very nicely for him. Nobody else rushing the Offworld quite so fast, despite the adrenaline boost being available. And PB Head having already secured that much of his own stock. Wow, that's ridiculous. I did not realize he had managed to move through HQ level 5 so fast. I'm wondering if he was one of the ones taking an awful lot of aluminum. Very, very difficult to interpret exactly what's going on there. Alright, so PB Head, with your Offworld market and the dry ice condensers, how good is that Offworld? Wow, water is fantastic at 394, food not so strong, oxygen good at 569, fuel solid at 495, and what else are we looking at here? Anything else worth paying attention to? Not really. Electronics at 449 is going to be kind of the next big thing. PB Head, it looks like, agrees with me. Blues is the one in the threatening position. He is the strong expansive who can easily move into Offworlds potentially. So it looks like PB Head is going to work to shut some of that down, and he is going to go after Blues right here and now. Who sold what stock? Did PB Head sell a stock? I heard the stock sell noise. Clark has sold Clark stock. Soren choosing to sell some of his own stock, get up some money. Everybody working hard to defend Blues from that PB Head buyout. PB Head needs 2 more shares. He may not end up pushing for it here. Okay, he is going to make the effort. No adrenaline boosts coming out on these Offworlds does worry me. I feel like if that had been done, PB Head would have had that purchase already. He's already got the adrenaline boost purchased up. It might be greedy trying to hold on to it. The oxygen launch goes through, though,
Look at all the money.
and he gets it done.
Your stock is now for auction.
All right, PB Head in a very strong spot at this point. Very, very strong. He is clearly the leader, but that is a disadvantage as well as an advantage. I'm hoping for his sake that the adrenaline boosts are enough to carry him through. He should be able to make very good use of those as we move forward this game. Slowdown strike is definitely a big deal. A solid counter to any adrenaline boost that any opponent chooses to utilize. Now, Cubit only just hit HQ 5. He has not been sitting on this Pleasure Dome, or sorry, on this patent office all that long. He is only just now moving into engineering labs, so there's not a whole lot to see there. Soren, on the other hand, he has already pushed into carbon scrubbing, a questionable decision as a first patent, in my opinion, this game. And he has been having an engineering lab working. It has been working on food and electronics. It's gotten a fair amount of work done on its own in that corner. This electronics production should be fairly strong at 133 right now. Unfortunately, silicon and aluminum are definitely getting in the way of that. And Soren not making as much money off of that as he would like. Alright, PB Head, what are you going to do from here? He's in chems. Guys, I'm going to be straight with you right now. Bias toward PB. Get over it. It's just happening. And I'm really expecting or hoping for his sake that he throws down an Offworld market before too long. Another one. I would love to see it. He does have this strength in not pumping out adrenaline boosts. It helps hide the fact that he does have that Offworld, because he is utilizing the hologram to help protect it. So I definitely like that decision out of him, but I still want to see more coming down. For the moment, PB Head has committed to buying up as much stock as he possibly can, securing as much from his opponents as he is able, and now moving into some power, it looks like. Power, definitely a reasonable decision at this point. It's doing quite well. Nobody in a position to really make money from it, but PB Head paying off debt, keeping his stock price high is a nice way to keep himself in this game. And he's actually just going to boost out his solar panels. Make sure those go online and start paying down debt rapidly. That is a lot of money coming in from these solar panels. A very nice use of that adrenaline boost. Alright, that does look like it's being set up for another offer. Nope, just being scrapped away. We'll have to see how that all transitions out. Cubit has moved into 2 engineering labs. I'm very concerned for PB Head that he has not made any move to any late game resource beyond the Offworld market. He is not in engineering labs. He is not in a patent office. He only has the one Offworld.
We're not
He is not in a
surprised,
hacker
just
array.
disappointed in you.
And all of those things definitely concern me a bit. We'll have to see what he chooses to move into and when.
9,000.
Alright, looks like somebody made the mistake of attacking Soren's off-world market and defending it. That is not a good thing, I don't think, because PB Head should... Is PB Head? No, he's not still sitting on that slowdown strike, never mind. That got tossed out a while ago. Would have liked to see that saved for when the off-worlds start flying up.
So,
We do have another one now. Definitely a strong play along with the food. That's good production, but I'm still worried about those engineering labs in particular. A lot being put into electronics production. Aluminum, silicon, and carbon are all going to have to come down to make that particularly worthwhile, it looks like. Although I don't even know who we're looking at that point. Alright, so Cubit is moving into food and fuel. I like that decision. Soren's still sitting on electronics. He has pushed to an off-world. It is launching oxygen. So he is going to be good to go with these boosts, although Goon Squad's pretty expensive already. Everybody drove those prices up quickly. So it's going to be hard for him to keep that tile defended too long. He's going to have to find some kind of ridiculous advantage off of this very, very quickly. And let's check actual cash totals at this point. Nobody's really sitting on anything relevant. Babyhead has still put himself into a strong place so far. I think the strongest of the lot. But everybody else is still in this game. They have a shot for sure. Cubit, still no Offworld online, is not good for him. Offworlds are fairly strong this game. He is expansive. But the engineering labs are solid. And I believe he also, that is not an actual hacker. Okay. Guys, it is so ridiculous keeping up with these players with these holograms. Still sitting on this patent office. He and Soren have gotten a lot done with these. Thinking Machines is on the way now. Likely a good decision against mutinies. Can help you easily win a mutiny fight over Offworlds if it comes down to that. So I like that decision overall. Everybody's got to be using the black market on cooldown at this point, and unfortunately for Soren, that is something he is not even able to do as a scavenger. He just does not have access to it because his debt was so bad. He needed to pay some down. Now he's got it back. But it's a little late. That boost coming out very, very late. That defended is going to wear off in 10 seconds, and Soren is just hoping that nobody drops a mutiny on that to grab it on back. That could be terrifying for him. PBhead, on the other hand, sitting on a mutiny right now. He doesn't go for it right away. He's still just holding. Maybe saving it to attack back, if that ever proves necessary.
Our hackers have compromised the trading service.
All right.
Price manipulation begins shortly.
So PBhead still, once again, on 2 Offworlds and quite a bit of territory. That buyout helping even him up with his expansive opponents and give him a slight edge when it comes to sheer number of tiles. I'm still concerned about his lack of engineering labs, but it could work out reasonably well this game. I think he wanted to make the game a bit shorter than it ended up being based on some of his actions and his stock buys, but he is still in undoubtedly a strong position, currently sitting on the largest amount of cash and the advantage in Offworlds as well as a hacker array. I don't want to say that overall he has an advantage in every aspect, as the tech is still an advantage towards Cubit and Soren. But it is very, very nice for him to be well defended with holograms that nobody else seems to even be aware of by the way they're playing. Here comes Cubit with a boosted, defended Offworld market and another one already online though. He's got 2 up at this point. That's dangerous. That is dangerous to my mind, because suddenly that makes him a target as opposed to Soren. Soren's sitting on the 1 Offworld, a little bit more cash at the moment, but Cubit's going to be making the money quite rapidly.
Screw with us, and we screw with you.
And so we're going to have to see how all that works out for these players long term.
Price manipulation.
Mutiny came down. Somebody was hoping that was an Offworld. It looks like it was not. Now it's just a poor, pitiful little farm. So whoever spent that mutiny, feeling a bit silly at the moment. Not the kind of way that you want to go ahead and use it. I do love this decision from PBhead. He built his second Offworld up here. So nobody seems to have found it just yet. Nobody's attacked it very effectively. No mutinies. There was a power surge in this area, but it didn't land directly on the Offworld, which helps indicate that people didn't know where it was. Or even if it was, as food was quite strong at that time. And so a power surge on food just made a lot of sense regardless. I guess it does take the tile away from him, but a shutdown on a single tile for now isn't really that big a deal. For being honest. Alright, keeping up with things. PB Head's almost to $500,000.
Break our stuff.
Soren sitting on a very, very weak, about 80,000 to 100,000 area, and Cubit has made himself the target for PB Head to bring down. Currently sitting on 98%. We are just waiting for a shipment at this point. And that should be enough to finish Cubit off. There's the red button. Just take it, PB. Nope, he missed it. Cubit paid down some debt. His stock price going up bit by bit. Just take it. Just get it done. It's the right call and you know it. He's not doing it, guys. He's not doing it. He's waiting. He's being patient. I don't like that decision, but I do understand it, trying to make sure he understands the game state before going into anything, but it does feel like the right call. He may be more scared of Soren because of Soren's stock advantage, and to be fair, that does mean Soren needs about $250,000 less than Cubit does. So it is arguable that Soren could still be a strong threat, but I think it is clear, since we can see the numbers, that Cubit is the greater threat of the two. He's been sitting on the engineering labs longer. He has 2 Offworlds, but PB Head doesn't know that. He may not have identified the Offworlds. Okay, there we go. PB Head making the safe, strong play against Cubit. That is good for him. And now Soren, he has got to find some way to use this small amount of territory to make a lot of money very, very quickly.
Offworld shipment launched.
Alright.
Look at all the money.
Mutiny onto some power. That's not necessarily a bad decision, trying to force PB Head to deal with his debt in some fashion. Power is definitely something both of these players, power and debt, definitely something both of these players can try to utilize against each other. So I do not mind that decision. Soren already has no debt as well, so that mutiny is making him quite a bit of money. Unfortunately, it's still not on an Offworld. PB Head still has this awkward farm sitting around, which you're looking for. But whatever works. Glass shortage going in PB Head's favor likely was started by him. We can see espionage begun, glass shortage. So he knew that was coming. Not even making any glass from what I can see. It was just a market that his opponent wasn't in. Very easy to buy into and out of to make a fair amount of cash. Soren still has a little more money, but PB Head is catching up rapidly, and he has a much, much lower goal of only 732,000. So I think the writing is on the wall at this point. And unless something absolutely ridiculous happens, PB Head may have pulled off the 2 games in a row. Alright, that was a lot of money spent for a goon squad by PB Head. Looks like it went on to his Offworld, trying to protect that. That could make a difference this game. I'm fairly certain that was a good $70,000 he paid for that. I don't know if that's actually affordable at this point. As you can see, now Soren is the one starting to push up at it. That's the kind of play that could potentially cost you the game at this point. I don't think whatever happens with that tile from here on out, I doubt it was worth a goon squad. Definitely something questionable here. Alright. Chem Labs are losing PB Head quite a bit of money as well. That virus was a strong play out of Soren's. He's got the glass production and the research going for it too, so he is still pushing in this. PB Head's still just functioning on that hacker array. He did move into an engineering lab eventually. He's used it for some steel, some glass, some power. No glass. No. Is that actually PB Head's? Yeah, that is PB Head's. Okay. But he still never moved into glass production himself. Definitely something that I would think of as a mistake. Could have gotten rid of these dry ice condensers when the dust storm came, and potentially moved into some glass, moved into some more reactors. Would have been a fantastic decision. Those are making an insane amount of money right now, but PB Head does still have the lead. At 89%, Soren's still back at 75%. I don't think Soren is going to pull this off, despite the possible stumbles or awkwardness for PB Head in the late stages of this game, with these viruses, the goon squad, the glass price, all of it a bit strange, but still not necessarily enough to bring PB Head down.
Offworld.
I do imagine this is another steel shortage coming in. It is. That should be enough, if it was even necessary, for PB Head to go and finish this one out. He's sitting on 98% right now. One more launch, just this shortage ticking over. Both of those should be more than enough for PB Head to go ahead and close this one out with the 100% on Soren. The red button showed up, and I clicked over to Soren just in time for PB Head to get the buy. So, that is going to be game number 5 and this series. On over to PB Head, and he is the victor in our very first FFA Offworld Trading Company tournament. Very strong couple of wins in a row. On over to PB Head. Alright, guys. That was some good stuff there. That was a great little game out of PB Head. Played very, very well. I loved the fact that he didn't use the adrenaline boosts on the Offworld. The obvious play. Because it very much looked to me like nobody knew where his Offworlds were. Especially this Offworld up here, which I don't think anybody actually ever figured out was an Offworld for a very long time. Went undefended by a Goon Squad for so long. And that's such a big deal because Goon Squads were up there costing like $20,000, $30,000. If PB had committed to that, it would have made it harder for him to use. He wouldn't have had that money to do for other things. So it's kind of a very big deal that he wasn't forced to keep buying up Goon Squads to defend his Offworlds. And instead, they just went through unmolested, and he dealt with his opponent's Offworlds by purchasing them directly. Very strong stuff. Soren says he's calling. We'll talk to Soren then. Hello. Hello. Well, we answered. I'm not hearing anything from Soren. I don't know if he hears anything from me. Nope, call ended. Well, there's that. We'll figure it out, guys. We'll figure it out. I'll toss him another call back. And let's go on over to the post-game report while we wait for that. So PB had a lot of money in steel at the end of the game. Harder to see exactly where he made all his profits before that. But you could tell it was just generally being in the strong resource at the right time. Chemicals made a fair amount of money. Oxygen made good money. Food made good money. I mean, it was just generally a nice spread of stuff from him, rather than just one thing or the other, combined with good use of the off-world markets, making him another clean million on top of that. Soren says he's calling via phone. PB Head looks like might also be trying to call. I'll see about... Alright, Soren's with another call. There we go. Hello? Hello, Soren? Let me make sure that I've actually got this set up correctly. Hold on. I've been using Skype for other things lately, and I need to make sure my audio settings are all good. Alright, I should be able to hear him now. No? Come on, work with me. There we go. Hello, Soren.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Everything's good now.
PB's trying to call?
Yeah, PB had sent a call to me. We could add him to the call.
Wow, quite the comeback.
It was a good comeback.
That was a great series of games.
Yeah, I expected PB to win though, so, you know. I was getting a little nervous there.
It wasn't looking good.
He made me nervous, but got it done nonetheless.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, I had 2 games
Hey,
while I
guys.
was in...
Hello.
Hey, PB. Congratulations.
Thanks. It's fine. It's good to be back on top.
You made me nervous. I was like, come on, you can do this.
I had to make it really, really an awesome.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. You know? Just had to keep things interesting. Just make sure you spread the wins right, and then go for it at the last moment.
Yeah, I think I fell down the last 2 matches I had pretty good games, but I'm totally unable to find a hologrammed Offworld in a 4-player game.
Nobody found PB's Offworlds that game,
Yeah.
it felt like. Oh,
I
man.
was all excited about Network Fire and seeing his Chem Labs. And then I saw one was Goon Squad. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Why would you Goon Squad that? Oh, well.
Yep.
It's so terrifying. Not just not knowing where they are, but not knowing how many are coming after you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, should you build a second one, you know? I mean, in my case, I had to, basically, because it's my only shot. But yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. And PB had that one hologrammed Offworld up for so long underneath his Geo and above
never
his
got
steel.
hit.
Never got
Never
hit.
got hit.
Not
Yeah.
once. And did you adrenaline boost that ever? I didn't think you
No.
did. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Like,
and
I
I was
had
like,
the adrenaline boost in my hand, and I was like,
And you
I could
never
adrenaline
used it.
Boost this, and I could have used it to bot out Cubit or Blues faster.
Yeah.
Because there was points where I could.
but it would have revealed the Offworld.
It would have revealed the Offworld.
Exactly. So then you used it
was
for
a good-
power eventually.
Yeah, it was a great spot because it looks like a bad steel mill, but you're kind of hemmed in there, so it's kind of, you could be like, well, I guess he was just stuck with a bad location, right? You know, tricky. Even with spy, I mean, in Beta 7, you're always going to get spies in a 4-player game with holograms, but it's still hard to find them.
Yeah, it still can
where they
take
are.
some work. It's not necessarily an obvious thing
Yep.
where they all are. It was good. Blues should have been defended a bit better there, though.
What were you launching at the end there, Soren? Were you launching oxygen?
I think water and food. Oxygen, I guess, just got too expensive at some point, so I turned it up.
I was watching water and food too. I should have can't. I was getting lazy at the end there. I could have canceled.
Yeah.
that.
Well, I had a huge mistake
Was young.
in that I've gotten used to the new UI in Beta 7, where when you turn on auto launch, it just it launches as many of them as possible. So I think for a pretty good decent chunk of time, I had 2 Offworlds, but I was only shipping with 1 of them.
Oh no.
Just because I keep forgetting that that's the way Beta 6 works. I don't think it cost me enough, but I don't think it cost me the game, but I did get to I was probably in the mid 80s to buy you out.
Oh yeah, you were up there, and I was watching it obviously.
Sure. I suppose you could have paid off debt, or did you even have
Oh
debt?
yeah, I had 200k
Yeah.
debt. So
You had a
I
lot
couldn't
of debt to pay off.
Okay, so you had a pretty good lead.
Yeah,
And I was
you-
paying off 3,000 a second on power.
on
so-
power, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you had 3 HQs. You're supposed to win that situation. So, I mean, the dynamics worked out fine. I guess was one of the buys early? I can't
Yes.
remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty
The
sure
buy on Blues, he got to the majority buyout.
Oh, that's right. That's where I was mad at. I guess I
Cubit.
was mad at Cuban. I was like, Asimov, come on! What are you doing?
Yes.
We
And that
are
made a
going to
huge
lose.
difference.
If is Cubit in chat? Did he have the money? Because that cost us the game right there.
I don't know if he had the money or not. I couldn't tell in the moment.
I was trying to get there. I even sold a share of my own stock.
I saw
dropping
that.
myself below 50% to buy up a share, because that's
Yeah,
how
I
you
saw
got to
that.
play.
That was good. That was a good play. That was a good play. I was annoyed by that play. Luckily, it didn't matter. That was a good
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. I almost wonder if the sell cooldown shouldn't be there in that situation. Like, you shouldn't ever get a cooldown for selling your own stock, because, geez, if you're selling your own stock, you are putting yourself heavily at risk,
That's fair.
On the other hand,
But-
if I could suddenly sell all my stock, then suddenly I'd have a large.
Yeah, I think that when you get to the
that would
end
be-
of the game, that becomes a problem.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
8 shares at $60,000. That's a lot of money. I could have ended that game, a minute earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, the game's always safer with that cooldown, I think, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else anybody wants to talk about from that series?
No. I felt like dry ice condensers were the MVP for me at least.
They got you some work done. I was nervous about them at some point because, in particular, there was a period of time when there was a dust storm going on, and you'd known it was coming for a while during the night. And so I would have liked to see the dry ice condensers disappear at that point and turn into something like glass. But they still worked out well, because eventually oxygen rebounded
Yeah.
back to the point
Yeah.
of being strong again.
Yep. Cubit 4-player, too chaotic.
I do have to admit,
Go ahead.
I did get a little lucky. I did feel like the black market effects did not land on me nearly as often as they should have leading up to my first buy.
Well, I don't think anybody realized you were even in a position to make buys, because looking at the rest of your
Yeah.
territory, it was like, it was okay. But
You didn't realize that I had.
you didn't realize you have the Offworld, and then you're sitting on no labs, no hacker array. You've got nothing.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me too.
So nobody was ready for you to have cash.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to do it just in chat. We want to do a team tournament soon. I know Layla really wants to organize one.
Roller really wants to.
And we'll see it. I'm not sure if Beta 7 is coming out next week or the week after, and maybe if it's the week after, maybe we can figure out a way to get team chat in there. Otherwise, I guess we could do the tournament without team chat, considering it's not like we're going to be playing with random people, right? Like, people should know who they're playing with. So we're probably going to have a rule where anyone who's been to the semifinals cannot be on a team with each other.
All right, who gets? Well, I guess it depends on which semifinals.
That's
All
okay.
the semifinals.
I know who I want for my teammates. So.
PBhead's just going to work both computers at once.
That would be an interesting challenge. Yeah, that was a weird map. I felt like there were a bunch of great wait, no, or am I thinking of the last one? Were there a bunch of great scientific spots, and then they all disappeared? In which case, at that point, they don't. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. PB made Robo work a lot. Did you play Robo the whole way, PB?
There was no, I didn't. There was a game where I was scavenger. There might have been a game where I was scientific.
Right.
Early games, but I was really hoping for a Robo win. So there we go.
And you got two of them. One with power and one without. So you know.
Yeah, everyone won but scavenger. Go figure. I mean, it makes sense in a sense, right? Like, scavenger is a little neutered when there's 4 players, because you can't, your black market power is not so awesome.
Scavenger almost had it at one point, but people managed to rally and knock it down.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
So I guess we should talk about Destroy Buyout a little bit.
Sure.
I think it was okay. I don't remember too many games where like it really screwed up the game in any way. And in many ways, I think a lot of the games were closer because of it. But I'm happy to discuss it.
I think the game where we saw the biggest influence from Destroy Buyout would have been that game where Cubit was Scavenger. That game 3, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Cubit was Scavenger. He gets a nice, huge early lead from a quick majority buyout on PB. And then that doesn't give him a particularly serious advantage. It's just 6 tiles that he got out of that, right? And so from there, like, his only advantage he really got from that was 6 claims.
Yeah.
And then an extra stock price boost.
Right.
And of course, if he had bought me out, it would have been over at that point.
Yeah.
Because I very clearly debt spiraled.
Yeah.
Very clearly, forced that upon me. So.
Now that's going to be irrelevant in the next patch anyway, because we're having a new feature which I've been testing, but I'm pretty happy with, which is that when you do a majority buyout, the other company becomes your subsidiary.
Well, I think that wasn't a majority that game.
Oh, that was going on in that daily.
Yeah. It wasn't a majority buyout. It was a straight buyout.
It was a straight buyout. Like PB had 2 of himself. Somebody else had 3 of him. And Cubit pushed to the full.
He death spiraled. That's right. I got paid out of that. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I mean, that happens, right? I mean, if one player dies, you're going to have a kind of an unusual game. So, I don't think Destroy Buyout or normal buyout would have, I mean,
if it were normal buyout, Cubit probably would have steamrolled that one.
Yeah.
So
in a sense, Destroy helped that one.
On the other hand, if it's normal buyout, you play differently.
Yeah, that's true as well.
And
yeah, I mean, what it really comes down to is what people. Because actually, I at this point, I kind of feel like Destroy does keep the games a little closer, but I don't think it really makes a huge difference. Nowhere near as much of a difference as people thought going into the tournament. Is my opinion. So I think now it's kind of a question of what people enjoy more.
I think the most important aspect of it is that it actually keeps prices high, because when you buy someone out, you're reducing the number of claims in total. So like this game, the prices are, and there's there's 3 prices that are above 300, and and then steel was hacked to 1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's another like 4 that are like the prices are really really high. Which keeps
It's
that game-
fair. Although destroy buyout isn't necessarily the only way to approach that. If that is a concern, there are other ways to make prices higher.
Right.
The point is that it wasn't totally an off-world rush.
Yes, that's true.
I won by building off-worlds, but clearly you could make some serious money off of fuel. You could make some serious money off of glass, and Soren was making a lot of money off of glass and I think electronics.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I am bumping up I am bumping up the amount you get from a destroy buyout in beta 7. You're going to get, instead of 4 times, you're going to get 5 times. So you'll get 10 claims instead of 8.
Gotcha.
And if you buy out someone who's bought out someone else, you'll get 15 instead of 10.
Okay.
So it will that'll play an impact as well. To me, I think at this point it's really just the aesthetics of, do people prefer taking over like a bunch of buildings, or do they prefer having to start over from scratch each time? Because I think with the changes coming up, I just don't feel like it made a huge impact in the tournament beyond just the normal stock dynamic. And I don't know.
I don't know. I kind of like the general idea of the majority buyout vassal situation you're talking about, but that doesn't seem to go well with destroy. The basic idea behind it seems awkward.
Because
I'm just going to take you over and then let you work for a while, basically.
I ran into it,
but eventually I'm just going to knock you down.
Well, keep in mind, another player
I didn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, another player can buy your vassal.
Yeah.
Like, they're still theoretically up for grabs. The main thing is it takes, it gets rid of the Walking Dead. You're not going to have humans sitting around who are just going to be kingmaker, basically. But you don't get a ton. You get 10% of their revenue, right? Which is, it's not that much, right? It's not going to, it's going to help, but you're going to get way more money if you actually take them over,
right?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Fortunately, we still have some time left, so people can play with it. But I do think it'll be an improvement. I mean, to me, the major issues with the game were not necessarily this question of who to buy out at the end. I think that's just kind of like, that'll always be a problem to some extent, and I don't think that problem is solvable. Like, to me, the bigger issue is like this issue of people getting owned early. And I believe that's going to get solved with subsidiaries. I'm trying, like in our game, did we have we have 1 majority buyout in the 5 games?
I mean,
there were a few, I think. I mean, PB got that last one.
Everyone was a majority buyout, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
yeah.
right?
Everyone was in game 4. Game 4.
Well, that was just a roll, and in that case, I think that's fine. Like, if you have that big of a lead, you'll just that's somehow you pull off a rush and you're going to end the game, and that's fine, right?
I do have one more, interesting thing to talk about.
Sure.
The meta of the game. Soren, I'm not sure Qubit, I, and some other people were practicing a lot for this tournament. We did a lot of practicing. Last week, Wednesday, Thursday, I was beating Qubit pretty. I think I won like 3 games in a row against him.
Are you done?
Yeah, we're talking about that. PB1.
Oh man.
And what happened was they were all doing hacker array plays, off-world plays. I was sitting back going Patent Lab and Engineering Bay.
Right.
So Qubit saw that. He took that. I left for the weekend. Qubit was playing Patent Lab Engineering throughout the weekend. I come back. I see everyone saying, "Oh, it's Qubit because he's gone Patent Lab at HQ level 3 or 4." It's like, okay, yeah, I see what you did there, Qubit. That comes in, and then these games, for game 1, game 2, game 3, a lot of people are going Patent Labs and Engineering Bays.
Yep.
It's very interesting. So I'm like, let's go Hacker Array. Let's go on
Sure.
Offworld. Let's beat that meta that we developed in the practice games. That it's really sort of interesting how that cycled around there.
Sure.
At least maybe I'm over exaggerating, maybe I'm under exaggerating. I mean, clearly other people had, this was not a long con for me for sure. But
Sure.
I'm just, it's very interesting to me how that meta just shifted so rapidly within a week. Just how it all changed. It's amazing to me.
Well, it's I mean, to me, it's all about short term versus long term, right? You're hunkering down with an engineering bay and a patent office. Like you're expecting the game to go a long way. Like the game that I did win, I'm pretty sure I won. A big part of it was I got some really key patents.
Oh yeah.
And but the game has to go long enough for them to pay off. So yeah, I really enjoy games where the patent office comes into play, and then I think there's just these interesting gaps now between when you upgrade, in that you're a little bit vulnerable. You hit level 5, or you research a bunch of patents. Like that's where you're burning your money, and if you're not making a lot of money elsewhere, you're vulnerable.
Yeah. People do talk about how if you get to level 5, and again, that's kind of how I won game 4. I saw someone go to level 5. They had no money reserves.
Yeah.
Time to buy them.
Yep.
Had the money. Hit the button.
Yep. Yeah. There's like no way to. Yeah, you're vulnerable. Like when you have no reserves whatsoever. Like, yeah. I mean, this game would have been just totally different. If Cuba had been able to just get that one more share of stock. And I forget if he had just upgraded or what was going on with him. I mean, I was a few thousand away from buying the other one, but
I think he had recently upgraded, but I'm not sure. He was running behind everyone that game anyway, so.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't mind Destroy Buyout, just to get back to that topic, but it does feel like I like the idea of giving the Destroy Buyout player maybe a few more claims. I'm wondering if it would be valuable to, in addition to that, make it easier for them to utilize those claims somehow. Even just something like a discount on non-advanced buildings, like the next 10 that they, or equivalent to the number of claims that they acquired, something like that. You know what I mean? Because it does feel like you make a buy and everything still feels like maybe a bit more of a struggle than it should be for that player.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as people aren't too vulnerable to get bought out as soon as they do the buyout, like I think that's okay. Like I like the idea that there's like this trough you go through after a buyout where you have to build yourself back up again a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't see any of these games as having an example of a situation where Destroy Buyout was like destructive to the balance or the way it worked out, right? So, I mean, that's what this tournament was for. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think Destroy Buyout should be the default. I'm still kind of mixed minds about that. But I don't think it's destructive to the balance at any rate.
I guess some of it's just that awful feeling of after a buyout and Destroy Buyout sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got to start all over again. I can't afford to. It feels bad sometimes.
Yeah. For me, I usually kind of like the sense that I can
yeah, it's a fresh new set of tiles, and sometimes you can look at it that way.
Right. I mean, it's the only way to essentially get new tiles, and like you can get into them very quickly. Or I mean, obviously, if you don't have the money, you can't get them quickly. But like, it's sometimes faster to do that than to figure out which tiles to delete.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, and that is a nice thing. I agree with that side of things.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I guess it's okay as is. I think in that it's going to get some tweaks. The next version also, like when you buy a player out, you're going to get all of the buildings you bought out in non-destroy buyout. They're all going to basically go on slowdown for a couple minutes. So like there's like an assimilation tax basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like sort of an alternate way to have a little bit of rubber banding for the player that gets the buyout. and so we'll see how that goes. And essentially, I think I almost see the two modes as being kind of an aesthetic choice, but at some point, I don't know. I would prefer if I somehow am able to make up my mind about like which one really is better or not.
Right.
But anyway, I think we can definitely go another version of the game where both versions are there, and see what people prefer.
Right.
What's the next tournament gonna be like?
I don't know. We're gonna probably wait till Beta 7, which I don't know is still coming because we're working on the UI. I know you wanted to, Layla wanted to do a team tournament, and I know everyone seems to be interested in that. So that would be pretty cool. I think we'll probably want to do.
You guys cannot be on the same teams.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make some rules about who can or cannot be on the same team. But I'd like to do another 4-player at some point, but team 1 would be very cool. So.
It's no more than 2 people per team. That got ridiculous.
No, it's no reason to go that crazy. No.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for watching, broadcasting the games, and they really turned out great.
Yeah, it was good.
It's kind of like what you hope for. The only thing I didn't want to happen was for the series to last 2 games. And,
yep.
We can get that.
And you guys avoided that quite nicely.
Yep.
So, you still planning your usual stream tomorrow, Soren? Tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I'm not really even sure what I'm going to do with it.
Gotcha.
But maybe I'll be playing the campaign. And because I'm not sure if the UI may still be the new UI. I don't really want to play on the old UI or the old rules anymore.
Right.
And but the new UI might still be too laggy. So I'll figure it out.
Gotcha.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.
Yep.
And,
Indeed.
We'll see you at the next tournament.
Thanks for streaming, Zoltar. I know your voice is probably really sore at this point.
Oh, I'm all good. Don't worry about me. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. See you around.
Bye.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for us here today. I'm going to be trying to get back on track with my streaming over on my stream fairly soon. We'll get back into those standard 4-player FFA matches that we love so much and that you guys got to see quite a lot of. We'll probably be doing it without Destroy Buyout. Might try doing it with Majority. We'll have to see how things go. For now, I'm going to hop on out of here. Thank you everyone for coming out and watching, and I'll see you next time.